All right, here's a good case, first one of the year. So this is the stellar material, not the pink, but the white. And this case was actually picked up around 5 months ago. First time it came out of the patient's mouth was today. And you can see we had 0 D-lambs on the stellar product. Everything adhered really well, and no bonding issues, no cracks, no nothing. So definitely highly recommending the stellar from Taub products.
Greetings, Earthlings. We're here today to talk about alienmilling.com.
What? No, we can't talk about aliens. Remember what happened last time?
You mean when you got abducted?
Yes, what if it happens again?
Well, you don't have to worry because we aren't talking about aliens. We're talking about alienmilling.com. It's a dental website. They're actually known for using the latest methods and technologies in milling top dental prosthetics. Oh, like crowns, plants, bridges, removable appliances, and space rockets? What was that last one? Are you still talking about aliens?
Oh no, I shouldn't have said anything. It's happening again. I'm being abducted.
Oh well, if you're looking for cutting-edge dental technology, go for alienmilling.com. You won't get abducted. We come in peace.
Welcome to Journey in Digital Dentistry. Today I will be talking about how you can go out of your comfort zone and switch completely from analog to digital workflow. Full digital workflow was created to have a simplified way of working digital dentistry. My name is Miloš and I'm a dental technician since 2001, and I found a way to integrate digital dentistry in our daily practice using equipments that have open systems. So regarding the digital workflow, everybody knows nowadays, also the patients, that digital dentistry is a reality and it's not future. And they are modern consumers. They want something better every time. They work more, they want to pay more, they want to get better. So basically we have to adapt and to imply our team and think digital. So they don't want just to go on the dental chair and open the mouth and you tell them what's the price of the restoration and you continue doing what you were doing for the last 30 years. Now we are living one of the most important times in dentistry, and we have to be one of the first not to lose this train. So basically I tried working completely digital since many years, but only in the last 2 years the missing links came to the light, so I can share with you some of my experiences regarding the full digital workflow. The same when I created my training center in my city, in Timișoara. I wanted to create a great experience for the dentists that come to the course. On the first floor we do a lot of live digital courses with live patients, and they all are amazed by the experience they get here because they see everything from A to Z. The same I thought when I opened my lab, and I said, okay, I want to be one of the first digital labs. So we quit like 2 years ago on stone models, and we print everything. And the dentists come here to the lab to take the color with the patient, and they have great experience too because they see something else. So let's talk a little bit about how you can go digital and which are the toys, tools and equipments necessary beside our analog experience that we have to transform into digital experience. We need to know also a little bit about insights. So I will mention here my companies that are behind me. So Ivoclar, Medit, Shera, Exocad, Asiga, AFT, and SageMax, companies that are standing beside me and helping me doing this educational platform and creating a real full digital workflow that actually works. First, I will show you a little video about my training center and how we do these full digital workflow courses. So here are the tools, the equipments that we actually need to be able to perform in digital dentistry. And from this many, I would like to mention that my choices for digital dentistry, for predictable and responsible dentistry must be open systems. So I will try to present in the next few minutes the list of the equipment I actually really use. I will start with the Medit I500 scanner, which is an exceptional intraoral scanner because first of all it's extremely precise, and that's a fact that I was able to prove in many different restoration, in many different cases. It's also very fast, so you don't have to worry about time-consuming procedures. It has no annual fee, which is normal for a scanner. If you already paid for it, that it's not going to have a fee, the same like for your car. Then it has color scans PLI format, which is the new standard in digital dentistry, and we use it almost more than a year and a half. Due to the triangle size of the mesh, it is more accurate than any scanner on the market right now. Then the scanning tips are much cheaper, and for example, you get 4 of them for the price of one from the competition company. I cannot mention the name. And then it's extremely user-friendly. Everybody can really unbox it and plug and play and work directly with it. Of course, the price tag, it's incredible, because for the price of the competition is asking for their scanners, you can actually buy 2 or 3 Medit scanners, so entire office can have a lot of scanners. For example, like if you have a 3, 4, 5 unit dental clinic. So regarding this, the most important part is actually the support. Basically, if you go online or on any Facebook group, on social media, you will be updated and your question or your problem solved in a matter of minutes. And that's actually the most important feature of this scanner. Now, if I would like to tell you a few examples of what this scanner can do, is that with this scanner you can actually mark the margins of your preps. In this case, of course, it's easy because you can read the margins much faster, but if you would have a prep like a verti-prep, like feather edge, and you cannot explain to your technicians where is your prep ending, then you can simply mark the margin and send this to your lab because it's already going to be integrated into Exocad. So Exocad will be able to see the marked margins. Also, what is nice about this printer that you can directly, about the scanner, sorry, that you can directly print the model after scanning, so you can actually create a base for your model and send directly for printing in your clinic or in your lab. And for this I have some recommendation coming. So you can communicate easier, actually faster with your patient regarding his situation. In a matter of 40 minutes, half an hour, you can print a model and explain to the patient what's his situation. If you are also into ortho and you are documenting your cases, you can also document using the intraoral scan instead of doing dental photography, which I do, and everybody knows that I'm dedicated to dental photography. But for standard cases, for everyday cases, for normal patients, we are going to use the intraoral scanner to document 360 degrees STL or PLI files, so we can have the before and after for every single patient this file stored. Also, it's the new thing that Medit came with, and he's constantly bringing new updates, and this is direct abutment identification system, because we can already position our analog and our scan bodies digitally, so the software automatically recognizes them. Also, I would like to tell you that artificial intelligence is also integrated into Medit intraoral scanner, and you can actually create verification jig, a digital verification jig, so you are 100% sure that when you send the impression to your lab, he don't even need to print or to mill a verification jig for the case. So he can go directly with the final work, screw retained, all 04, all 06, whatever it is. And this is the first time a scanner is doing this, and it's the most accurate right now on the market. Of course, if you want to check your reliability and if the scan is good, you can always switch to color mode, and then you can see if you have green, it means that it's exceptional quality, and that you can send this impression to your lab tech. Of course, there are improved algorithms that also create a better environment for full arches, full mouth rehabilitations, and the distortion is so small that errors are almost eliminated completely regarding the full mouth reconstructions. Now, when we talk about Medit scanner, of course it has to have a computer, and I highly recommend to use Dell Alienware, because it's one of the best and most optimized gaming computers for Windows. And saying this, I want to say that it's running very fast and very smooth with digital softwares created for dental industry too. So minimum recommended configuration would be of course Windows 10 Pro 64 bits, 17-inch screen, not smaller. You don't need touch screen, of course, and 512 gigabytes SSD drive, and you can take a supplementary 1 terabyte hard drive, normal SATA drive, so you can store and add more files there. 16 gigabytes is fine, but 32 would be actually amazing. And starting from this graphic card, which is an older model, and you might even not find it on the market anymore, I would highly recommend to go at least from GTX 1070 and higher. The one I have right now, it's RTX 2070. Now, also when scanning the patient, and you have to scan the patient and then to look into the computer screen to see if everything is going smooth, if you scanned correctly, if you don't have any holes in the scan or something like that. These glasses will actually help you not even move your head away from the patient. Basically, you will put these goggles on and you can see exactly what's on the computer screen. It's actually a mirroring device created to plug and play into your USB port and HDMI from your laptop. So basically, you can see exactly what's on the screen, and then you can keep continuing scanning of the patient and just raise your eyes to see what's the projection in front of you. So you will see exactly how and where you are scanning correctly. Then, of course, you will need a medical card like Medit scanner card. That is actually the most stable card for dental industry. Right now, I designed this one, and you can place your intraoral scanner, computer, face scanner, and no matter how hard you can hit this card, nothing will fall down because it's super heavy and stable. Also, it's nice because it's a mobile solution and you can move it from one office to another. It has hydraulic foot, so you can raise it up to the height you want, or you can lower it down to the height you want. And it has also electricity plugs, so you don't have to use extension cords. Okay, let's start with some tips and tricks. Also regarding the intraoral scanners, you cannot scan under the gums. So what I'm trying to say is that no matter how good you were in the, or how bad you were in the analog dentistry, you have to be the same in digital one. So what I'm trying to say is that if you don't use cord and you don't show the margins, it's going to be very hard for the dental technician to identify them. So that's why I highly recommend to use the cords when taking the impressions. Also, to be able to scan faster and more accurate, I recommend to use Optragate from Ivoclar and ScanMate made in US. So these tools are actually gonna make our life easier when it comes to intraoral scanning, and of course less time consuming. Now, when it comes to big changes in dentistry and when it comes to improvements, innovations, and about the missing links, I have to talk about the AFT System 1, which is the ultimate face scanner that I use in every single patient for every single case. And why it's so special, I will try to explain to you in the following minutes. First of all, it's not just a face scanner, it's also a digital face bow. It's using a system of two scan bodies, a scan body head and scan body mouth. And it's easy to integrate into our workflow with exocad as technicians. So basically what I'm trying to say that the dentist would have to have just an intraoral scanner and a face scanner for a highly predictable result. Using the face scanner, we can see the Frankfurt plan, Kemper plan, median line, Condylion guide, and also measure the Bennett angles. So when we integrate everything into exocad, we can actually program our articulator to behave like actual patient moves, and also the same position of the maxilla in the patient's head. So what these scan bodies are doing, actually, it's amazing, giving us opportunity to have the digital face bow. Also, we can use the jaw tracking systems like Mojo or Zebris or Articon Pro Systems. So they are already, most of them, integrated directly into our CAD softwares. So if you want more performance, better predictability in occlusion and functional restoration, then it's a good option too. What we are also using is Autodesk Mesh Mixer. In this case, we can send, for example, when we have full mouth rehabilitation, the patient with, we can send the patient with a splint directly to the CBCT and take the CBCT with that splint. So in that case, we get our centric relation bite of the patient, and we can overlay it as a mesh in exocad and get correctly the bite of the patient. As you can see in this video, you will see also the case I'm talking about. This is regarding the exocad integration, and here you can see that we can actually add our virtual patient into the virtual articulator, and we can see the functional movement. So we don't create just an aesthetic restoration, but also a functional one. Now when it comes to the communication with the lab and communication with the patient, we can either send the dentist some print screens with the new design and some measurements, but what is very important is that we have exocad web view, and this is an app that dentists can control and use different transparency and opacity for the layer, so he can remove the skin or make it more transparent, make the new design more transparent, so he can see the difference between the old teeth that are supposed to be restored and the new design that we created. So it's an ultimate tool for a communication in the entire team, and you can receive it anywhere, anytime, on the phone, on the tablet, or on the in the dental office on the computer screens. Now when we talk about workflow, it's also good to know that when you have laboratories that are far away from your office, and let's say in another country, another state, another continent, you can actually send them the intraoral scan and the face scan in less than 25 minutes, and you can get the predictable planning done in exocad or different CAD softwares in a matter of hours, like 1 or 2 hours, and then you can print directly the new design as a mock-up. I highly recommend for this to have the Asiga printer, which is a small printer, desktop printer that you can place anywhere in your office and can print ultra thin veneers, 0.203 millimeters and more. And also you can do in the same day the test drive of your patient according to the planning from the lab. So the distance is not that important anymore, and this printer is an open system, works with all the systems. It's compatible with more than 350 materials. It's plug and play, easy to install, and of course no licenses, open software, and lifetime technical support. So basically it's an ideal tool to have in the dental office. Also, what I'm trying to say is that nowadays dentists should have a little bit more or less time-consuming protocol. So intraoral scanning, face scanning can be done by the assistant. She can send the case directly to the lab. The lab will do the planning, send back for the approval, and then you can print out these mock-ups in the same day without having trouble to design anything or to lose time for these long taking protocols. Now for the laboratory part, we have an amazing printer, and this is Shera Print 30. If you are working with your lab, it's highly recommended that they have the best printer in industry, and this is for labs that want to have extreme details, that they need extreme speed and predictable results in the final outcome. So how we do when we work with our dentist is that usually when we have full mouth rehabs, we send them the models or the STL file of the model so they can print the new design like this, and they can make a silicone key. Of course, new resins are coming all the time, so you can also print the new mock-up silicone key, so you can do directly the mock-up in a matter of minutes. And the best and the most innovative is that we can actually send the STL files of the veneers. So if you have a non-prep patient that you didn't touch, you just want to see exactly how he will look when the case will be finished, and of course this is for additive cases, you can actually print the veneers one by one and put them in the mouth like actual real veneers. The outcome is going to look like this. So you will have an initial model that you already need for your patient, because you need to make a better communication and you can show him exactly a physical model, and then you can print the veneers on it and place them in the mouth using some glycerin gel so that the veneers will stay there very good, and you can make actually some photos and show to the patient. Now we have also the Exoplan software. So if you need the software to plan the surgical guides and to print them by yourself It's actually extremely easy using the Asiga printer and Exoplan software from Exocad. When it comes to the chairside milling machine, so we have the VHF Z4, which is a highly recommended milling machine because it's open. It's an open system, can get files from any different CAD software, and it will run with most of the materials that are on the market right now. They have, let's say, automatic changer for 6 tools, and compatible with 190 titanium prefab abutments from 11 manufacturers, 38 block materials from 20 manufacturers. So basically, with the biggest names in the market, you can just purchase the materials and use it with this super fast milling machine, highly accurate actually. Also, it has, what is good thing about it, that it has built-in compressor air, so you don't need an additional compressor for it, and also integrated PC with touchscreen and Wi-Fi. The price tag for this machine is around 40,000 more or less, $35,000 more or less, so it's not that expensive. And regarding the price tags, for example, the Medit scanner is around $16,000-$17,000, and then you have the AFT face scanners, which is around $4,000, and extremely affordable equipment, and open, most important, open. And also what is extremely important is that they all have very good support. So you can use for a chairside solution not only the milling machine but also the chairside software from Exocad, and you can create your own designs, your own veneers, crowns and bridges in a matter of minutes. Highly intuitive, user-friendly software. When it comes to the big production labs and for high accuracy, I can highly recommend the PM7 machine from Ivoclar, of course VHF machines and Roland machines that have a very good established name in this field. As zirconia manufacturers, I'm really happy to show you the Zircad Prime restorations or SageMax restoration, which is actually my favorite. And you can see in the following pictures the quality of the zirconia and also the transition of the colorful layers into a really nice textured crowns that you can create with it. Now let me show you some cases regarding the precision and regarding the variety of the cases that you can do using the full digital workflow. So I will start first with a non-prep veneer case, and this is most loved one that I did like 1.5 years ago, and it was published in Dental Dialogue magazine. So what is so special about this case is that, for example, the dentist sent the lady to our lab just to see the patient if it's okay for non-prep veneers. And what I actually did, I asked the patient to stay for a few minutes with us, and we did the face scanning, intraoral scanning, and asked the patient to come, let's say in about 2 hours. After 25 minutes, we finished the scans, and then we took the files into Exocad. We designed the new veneers that we want, and we printed them out. So when the patient came, we did already the try-in for her on the model, and then in the mouth we did some pictures and showed the patient. She was very, very excited about the final outcome, and she said yes, she would like to go for a non-prep case, for non-prep veneers. But I realized that we printed the veneers at 0.3, 0.4 millimeters, and to get a very good outcome for non-prep and 0.1 in the cervical area, we would have to think analog for this case. So we had digital impression, we had digital printed model, but we would have to finalize, let's say, for example, with refractory, which was not done before, and using this technique. So what I did, I finished the case in less than 2 days, and then I asked my dentist just to come for the final cementation. He was like, but I didn't send you any veneers. And I was like, yes, yeah, I know, but I just finished the case you sent to me just to see it. So that's how it works, and that's how easy it is for dentists to have a easy workflow, predictable workflow, and they don't have to be implied in this workflow that much. So the assistant can send the face scan, intraoral scan, and the lab can plan and send back the STL files so that dental office can print it and do the try-in and sell the case. So I will go through details, and I will tell exactly what I did for this one. So here you can see that we did a number of 4 face scans. All of them include the same scan body on the head, but only the first one has scan body mouth, which is actually giving us the position of the maxilla in the patient's head, so we can transfer it to the other 3 scans. So when we plan the new design, we can actually see how it looks in different smile positions and opening of the mouth. So we have the 4 face scans, and we have the scan body mouth that we also scan, and we send it in the lab. And here we can see intraoral impression, the first video. So that's done with a Medit I500, and this case, remember, was done 1.5 years ago. Then we have the face scanner using the AFT face scanner, which is super affordable, price tag around $4,000, and you can actually have your virtual patients. It's not just a face scanner. Remember, it's a digital face bow that actually gives me the position of the maxilla in the patient's head. So don't go for any face scanner on the market, because they don't have any workflows, they don't have any support, and they are not as accurate as the AFT face scanner, which was first on the market to have these features. Also, in the third video, you can see the new design, and then to validate it from the functional aspect, not only from the aesthetic one, we are going to integrate everything into the virtual articulator, of course measure the Bennett angles digitally, and customize our measures in the articulator, our values in the articulator. So that's how all our patients look like. Also, you can see how we integrate the intraoral scan into the scan body, and then later on the right side you will see how we integrate the scan body into the face scan. So I will just give you a few minutes to understand how this is done, and how actually the intraoral scan goes into the face scan into the right position, exactly as in the patient's mouth. So once we choose more points and we overlay exactly the impression in a very, very, very precise mode, then we are going to do the same thing using 8 to 12 points to transfer this scan body into the face scan. What is good about this scan body mouth is that it's curved. It's also 3D. It's not a straight one like a 2D. So we are not going to use it for a picture. We are going to use it for actually a 3D face. And that's why it's important to have this shape. So once we did that, we created the design in Exocad. We actually printed the veneers and we placed them in the mouth for the patient, and that's when we get our acceptance from the patient, and that's the moment when we actually sold the case. Remember, don't show them the mirror, never, or if you have a huge mirror in your office, don't let them get closer more than 1 meter. So in that way they can see how they actually look with a new smile, like they were talking to themselves. They can see it through our eyes actually. So that's the moment when we sold the case, and then I had to find a solution because it's a non-prep case. I know that margins that are 0.2 and more are not really good and very hard to integrate. So what I did, I printed the model with the Shera team and a highly precise model with Geller mobile dies. So we took these dies and we duplicated with Shera silicone and Shera refractory material, and we placed the refractory dies into the printed model with a perfect fit. I've tried that many years ago and it didn't work with other printers, and this is actually the first printer I was able to do this technique. So once we had the refractory dies, I created the veneers, and here you can see how they look like. 0.1 margins, very thin, and 0.3 in the thickest part of the veneer. So I use for this style ceramic, which is a feldspathic ceramic from Ivoclar, and then I broke the veneers. They fell down during my photo session, and then I had the chance to see what is actual fit on the printed dies, and as you can see in the picture, the fit is extremely good. So I went and I did again the case from zero. I used for this ceramic Opal Effect 1, so I have a translucent ceramic veneer that will copy the color from behind from the natural tooth, and in the incisal edge I use an opaque material called Mamelon Light, so I could have a nice halo effect. Here you can see the trine with gel, and then the final veneers in the mouth after cementation. So without any prep, without any cords, without the dentist help, I finished the case in less than 3 days. And that's the final outcome, and of course it was published in a magazine on the front cover. Final pictures, as I teach in the Shoot Like a Pro course about dental photography, and they can be used also as a very good advertisement material, marketing material on social media. So here you can see the challenge was to create minimal invasive veneers or non-prep veneers. Only 6 of them, because usually we do 8 or 10, so we can have a nice buccal corridor, but being so thin we didn't need to go for so many veneers, and only 6 solved her problem, creating a very natural smile. Now another case very similar that I did for Swedish Academy of Cosmetic Dentistry, and this is the patient. I did this case with Dr. Klas Oskarsson. Here he took the face scan in the live patient course, so we had this live course with this patient. We took 4 face scans, we took the scan body mouth, and we sent that everything to Exocad together with our Medit impression. In the beginning, 1 month before the course, he sent me the files with Trios, so we had printed the model with Trios file, and in the course we scanned the patient with Medit, and we created the veneers on design on the Medit file. So when we had both of them ready, like the model and the veneers, we placed them one on top of the other, and the fit was amazing. So that means that both of the scanners are compatible one with each other. Now to finalize the case, after I left from the course and we did the planning part, I did the same thing like in the last case. So I duplicated the dies, and I created refractory dies and refractory veneers. So we had a very, very predictable result. So this is the initial situation, set of photos, and here you can see the mock-up in the mouth of the patient during the course. And of course we just had to finish the case with the same concept, because there was not any prep involved, so I wanted very thin margins, and then I used the same technique. You can see the final outcome here, and of course the final case cementation will be done after, and you can see the final result on social media. Also, the packaging is very important when we talk about digital dentistry, because we do a premium dentistry. We need to have a premium packaging and safe packaging. So when we send this kind of work, like super thin, very fragile veneers, we need to have a special packaging and also very clean. Now let's talk about All-on-6 using this full digital workflow, and here we had to go through all the steps of restoration. So we went from the surgical guide and planning, printing the surgical guide, and here you can use Shera printer P30, or you can use a Siga printer to print it in-house. Then we took the intraoral impression, and here we have the scan bodies, and of course it's ideal if you can leave any kind of tooth on the arch when doing this scan and do the extractions later. And of course technician can do virtual extractions into exocad. Then we printed the model with Shera printer, and we printed the gums, elastic gums, soft for the gums, using the same printer. And of course we used the verification jig. At that time we printed one for All-on-6. For All-on-4 I would highly recommend maybe a metal printed jig, but I just told a few minutes ago that with the Medit's new software you can actually skip this step and do the verification jig digitally and make sure that your impression is 100% accurate. Then we did of course the virtual extractions, and we created a place for papillas, and then we designed the new PMMA milled provisionals that had actually extremely good passive fit. And then for the final restoration we can choose from a multitude of different kind of restorations. We can use metal with zirconia, we can use only zirconia, or we can use Pecton with Emax crowns. Now this is how our patient is looking like. You can see the intraoral impression with the virtual extractions done later after we took the impression, and then you can see our virtual patient in the same way like all our patients are, especially when we do full mouth rehabs or screw retained implant restoration. We need the CBCT and the face scan. So that's how our patient went through the workflow. And now we have another one, short full mouth rehab. In this case we did exactly as I said before, a splint therapy between 2 and 3 months, and then when the patient really feels comfortable and it's in the final centric relation, we are sending the patient with this to the CBCT for bite registration. Actually, why we do this? Because in this case we really open a lot the vertical dimension of occlusion, and we wanted to make sure that we don't do the translation of the condyles. As you can see in the video, the bite is really raised a lot. He needs this kind of vertical dimension of occlusion, so we can create a very nice and functional smile for him. Here you can see the initial situation of the patient, and here you can see the overlay of the intraoral scan with the CBCT. So we have the soft tissue, we have the hard tissue, and we can actually transfer in this way the bite for full mouth rehabs. Instead of scanning it, we are using the CBCT, and we can watch for the condyles so that we don't destroy the TMJ of the patient. Of course, the same way, using the scan body mouth, we can not only transfer the intraoral impression, but we can also transfer the CBCT. Of course, there are CBCTs that can do face scan, but they're not very affordable, let's say, at the moment. So this is the best solution that can help you with the full digital workflow. Once we insert the CBCT and the intraoral scan into the face scan, that's how our virtual patient looks like, and we are ready to proceed with designing, and we can send this plan proposal to our dentist so he can decide if we are going to go for it or not. So this is the most effective way to communicate with the team, and for this we can use Exocad WebView. Here you can see that we can actually see the patient in different stages with big smile or with just slightly open, and then we can add the design, and we can play with the layers, we can play with the transparency, translucency of the teeth, and actually see all the tiny details of the planning. You can see here the new design that was planned, and once we have this we can send for approval, and we can send the STL file for printing actually, so the dentist can either print the physical models and do the silicone key, or we can send him some shells, but that's a little bit harder. So usually for full mouth rehabs it's kind of required to have a silicone key on the physical printed models with the new design. And then you can see a difference between before and after. So we have our patient here before and after, and I want to thank you very much for being with me, and I hope I succeeded in motivate you to switch from analog to digital and to get out of your comfort zone, because you see it's not very difficult to be a digital dentist nowadays, because you have the tools, you have the equipment and the knowledge that it's more and more all over the place, so you can implement starting from tomorrow full digital workflow in your office for a more predictable and for more responsible dentistry worldwide, so that our patient will have the maximum advantage of new age dentistry. Thank you.
All right, here's a good case, first one of the year. So this is the stellar material, not the pink, but the white. And this case was actually picked up around 5 months ago. First time it came out of the patient's mouth was today. And you can see we had 0 D-lambs on the stellar product. Everything adhered really well, and no bonding issues, no cracks, no nothing. So definitely highly recommending the stellar from Taub products.
Greetings, Earthlings. We're here today to talk about alienmilling.com. What? No, we can't talk about aliens. Remember what happened last time? You mean when you got abducted? Yes, what if it happens again? Well, you don't have to worry because we aren't talking about aliens. We're talking about alienmilling.com. It's a dental website. They're actually known for using the latest methods and technologies in milling top dental prosthetics. Oh, like crowns, plants, bridges, removable appliances, and space rockets? What was that last one? Are you still talking about aliens?
Oh no, I shouldn't have said anything. It's happening again. I'm being abducted.
Oh well, if you're looking for cutting-edge dental technology, go for alienmilling.com. You won't get abducted. We come in peace.
Hello everyone, I'm Sander Polanco. Thank you for connecting through DDC World Platform today. I'm pleased to participate in the first DDC Symposium in collaboration with Medit featuring the i500 intraoral scanner. It's a pleasure to share the symposium along with great professionals in the dental field. Milanov Milos, master technician from Romania, who just presented an amazing lecture and shared with you his amazing photography and full digital workflow. Coming after me, a super dentist, Dr. Michael Schetter, who will give you all the insights on in-house crown and implant production and great tips on scanning workflows. I want to thank all the sponsors that supported this educational event. To tell you a little bit about myself, I'm CEO of FMR Prosthetic Center, co-founder, instructor at Digital Dental Craftsman, co-founder and technical consultant at Chairside Lab Solutions, adjunct professor at the Restorative Dentistry at New York City College of Technology. Also a former lab technical advisor at Full Mouth Reconstruction, NYU, continuing education. At FMR Prosthetic Center, we focus on full mouth rehabilitation solutions. This can be from fixed, removable, or implant support prosthesis. Chairside Assistant is one of our new services that we offer to all our clients. Since we acquired the Medit I500 2 years ago, we are able to offer digital impression assistance and workflows for larger implant and fixed FMR cases. Besides the chairside intraoral services, we have been able to introduce the digital dentistry with the intraoral scanner. Also, we have seen a reduction of lab processes through intraoral workflows. So this has been very important for us to be able to be efficient and be assertive in fabricating our restorations. Chairside assistance has given me the opportunity to interact with the patient and be able to work hand by hand with the doctors, which is a unique experience for a technician. I have learned so much over the years since I was a technical advisor with the FMR NYU program, where in similar ways we were able to treat patients and together with the dental team. My topic today is about digital full arch workflows. So I'm going to give you a little perspective about the lab side, what is that is required, and also some of the steps and processes that we have to go through in the laboratory. And all of these are from workflows that we have established to share with our customers and clients to be able to treat patients efficiently and cost effective. First, we have fixed FMR. So I will be talking about fixed FMR, full dentures, also full arch implant rehabilitation, and I will give you a little introduction about the peak bridge workflow. Fixed FMR. For fixed FMR workflows, the first thing is required is to the data acquisition. Get the patient records through intraoral jaw scans, jaw relationship scans, photos, face scans, and we have introduced or make part of our workflow the digitized dentofacial record. And this is for us, very important to be able to validate all the digital data. After we receive this information, the photos, we start with photos, creating 3D DSD or digital smile design. And this is done with many software that you can use for this purpose. DSD has its own software. Also, 3Shape Smile Design is the software that we utilize in the laboratory. And very fast way to create a template for the patient and for the doctor to be able to motivate patients to commit to the dental treatment. After this is approved, everything goes back to the laboratory for the CAD process, the CAD design, and a 3D digital design is produced, and mock-up keys and models are sent to the doctor to be able to try this in the patient's mouth. So as mentioned before, photos, digital impressions with Medit I500, the video assessment and by scan registration in the patient's mouth is very important. At the chair is very important. And also the face scan and digitize the dental facial record. This is one example of the photos being used with the 3Shape digital designer, where on this patient, the tissue need to be remodeled. The patient was showing a lot of gingiva display. So the doctor decided to requested a stent to be fabricated for gingivectomy, which you will see in the next slide. So after taking the intraoral scans with the Medit I500, these are sent to the lab and aligned with the photos in the software. A digital wax-up is produced, a surgical stent for the correction of the gingiva margins. This is 3D printed, and after surgery and provisionalization, it's very important that the proper healing of the soft tissues takes place, especially when you are utilizing an intraoral scanner for the capture of the proper breath margins. The wax-up that was previously done in the laboratory is merged with the final intraoral impression, so we can maintain the same information and the same approved design from the digital wax-up. crowns are fabricated, designed, and then fabricated in the laboratory. It's important always to check for function, and this is very easily done virtually and then analog after printing the restorations or milling the restorations. This is part of the models that were done with a SIGA, with 3D printers, and then the IMAX or lithium disilicate crowns. Also, material selection is very important. I prefer lithium disilicate for these type of cases, for the way they bond. They have a good bond or addition to the structure. So this is the final result from the patient. We have the before and after. So we were able to restore function and aesthetics for this patient. Facial scanners, they have been introduced in the dental market for quite some time. We found this system very simple and very efficient. The AFT dental system, which now you can actually use an iPhone, but it's necessary that you use the proper scan bodies or face bodies, face scan bodies, so you are able to align properly the face scans to the models. It's a simple procedure just by taking the registration of the maxillary arch. So this later we can relay, this can be scanned in the desktop scanner or in intraoral scanner with the Medit I500, and then related to the face by the positioning square template that is outside the mouth. And the idea is to get the horizontal orientation and also more information from the patient. So this is a great deal for our laboratory to avoid miscommunications and provide with more precise restorations. So as with using traditional face bows, we are able to capture the horizontal orientation of the occlusal plane of the patient. And this takes as a reference the plane of Frankfurt, where then later we can analyze, but at this, on an analog articulator, we cannot analyze the plane of the Camper's plane or other planes that sometimes we can see when we see the patient. In the laboratory, we don't have the patient, so having the facial scans is from great help. So here we can see the implementation of the facial scans, where we can determine the same way, calibrate the articulator to the face after they have been aligned to the scans of the jaws, and we can determine the different planes. For example, here the Fox plane, and we can have some information where the occlusal plane will have to be. So for this workflow, 4 face scans are required, 2 are rest, and 1 using the mouth scan body and 1 without, and 2 scans high smile position, 1 using the mouth scan body as well, and 1 without it. So those 4 scans are easily exported from the app to even any Dropbox folder or other cloud applications. And what I like also that you can export in different formats from PLY, OBJ, or STL. But very important that you utilize, if you're going to use the app with your iPhone, that you have the proper scan bodies. And you can request these at Chairside Lab Solutions, where they have these available. So the last component on this workflow is the dentofacial analyzer. And this is just simple occlusal plate that will record the horizontal position of the occlusal plane of the patient. In this case, I utilize a modified Fox plane that I found on eBay for $10. So also there's other nicer tools where like the Easy Bow from AD, Advanced Dental Concepts, or the Cois face analyzer. So they serve the same purpose. So when this record, in addition with the proper video assessment of the patient, if this is B2B increase, the doctor decides to increase the video, so VDR, then the most recommended is to do it in the mouth, and then get or scan this registration with the Medit I500. In the laboratory, we can validate this information through different tools that the software offers. 3Shape or Exocad are great dental software where we can validate the same information that is sent to the laboratory. This is another example. This is one of the tools that also is a nice tool to use for registering the VDR and video. And again, the record for the dentofacial record. And now that we have this, we can use the Medit I500 and digitize very easily. In less than a minute, you can get this record and be integrated into the case of the patient to be sent to the lab. Now, we simply can, the nice thing about STL files is that we can just invert these files and from negative to positive just by flipping the file. And now we have the anatomy of the teeth where of the positive of that impression, and we're able to easily align to the intraoral scans. So this is an example of having the face scans ready to be integrated. This is how these are aligned after this record is also scanned with the Medit I500. It will give us the proper alignment to the jaw registration. And now we can see different things that this patient, for example, need to be restored. There's a lot of malocclusion issues and teeth were worn and a lot of wear on the teeth. So now we have the full picture of what needs to be done. This is how the dentofacial analyzer is integrated also with the case. So we had a version of the table, the occlusal table, the virtual table, calibrated to the virtual articulator, and then this articulator is calibrated to the face of the patient, as we will do with a regular faceful. So now we can validate the occlusal plane of the patient. This is very important to avoid especially cants or midline shifts. That is the most common retries or problems that happens when taking records and being transferred to the laboratory. So the digital wax that was produced for upper and lower jaws to correct the plane. The patient has a lazy lip on this side, so they decided to treat this after the dental treatment, but we were able to restore the tooth positions and with a digital wax. Models were fabricated, printed, 3D printed, prep guides and mock-up keys for the proper mock-up appointment, and to be able to see the new smile for this patient. So patient was very excited. These were the final result after crowns were milled in lithium disilicate. So just to summarize the digital workflow for fixed FMR, to start with photos, intraoral impressions with the Medit I500, the BiScan in MIT or CR, determine the OBD if the programmer is needed to be able to accommodate the condyles to the new position, the condyles of the patient to the new position or the new video OBD, and the AFT or the 3D face scan. These 3D face scans can be done with any facial scanner. Currently, at Chairside Lab Solutions, we carry different facial scanners. So, but very important that you utilize the scan body markers. So from the lab, you will get the WhatsApp matrix for mockup, final WhatsApp prep guides, and to be able to temporize, and or lab meal provisionals, where you will be able to calibrate occlusion OVD. Records for final prosthesis, photos, intraoral scans of provisionals that we need, preparation, prepare intraoral scans, the preparations, teeth preparations, prep teeth intraoral scans of the provisionals, also the scan of that bite or OVD the patient already got used to, and stomp shake and final shake. So another way to utilize the Medit I500 scanner, not only for dentate patients, so for edentulous patients. So full dentures has been a big topic over the past 2-3 years, when they have become more digital process through digital technology, either 3D print or mill, and with the new with CAD software, either ExoCAD or 3Shape. So in any way, now with the intraoral scans, with the Medit I500, you can also participate of this of the fabrication or development of full dentures, or full mouth rehabilitation with dentures. This is a workflow commonly used for with patients that already have full dentures. They already walk to the clinic with existing full dentures, but they were worn. And an easy way to capture that data is to take a wash reline of the denture, or if they need to be border mold at this point, you can do so, and then take analog impressions and a new video if they need to be if this needs to be restored, and then scan with the Medit I500. And you can see how detailed and accurate scans you can get. Now this is sent to the lab, to your laboratory, and then you can receive a new set of dentures to the new measurements and for the patient. Okay, so with the Medit I500, easily you can capture this data to be sent to the lab. Now, for patients that don't have existing dentures, or they are not to be used for this, to capture the new records, you can scan the upper and lower jaws, and digital rims can be fabricated so from at this point you can start the same process that you could do with regular with existing dentures. So new wash analog reline is performed at the clinic, and the proper occlusal registration, and this can be scanned with the Medit and sent to the lab. Now there's some attachments that can be digital added to these digital occlusal rims very easily. This is with Mesh Mixer. This is a Gothic art tracer. If centric relation and at the new video wants to be established, So these can be added to the digital rims and for this purpose. Also, an attachment for the face scan can be also attached to the maxillary rim, so we can have the face scans also integrated in the workflow. So for patients that are dentate and teeth are going to be extracted, so the scanning with the Medit is no issues. It captures very well anatomy landmarks, which is important to mention, is to capture the anatomical landmarks needed for full denture fabrication, like retromolar pad, all the lingual vocal sulcus that will help us for the retention of the denture. So once again, very important to capture all the different, the most anatomical parts needed for full denture fabrication. This is sent to the any CAD software. Easily we can extract teeth, and then a new set of dentures is designed and fabricated. On this patient, this is the case for this patient, where with photos that were included, we can check different areas as the midline and the occlusal plane in a 2D design, and then teeth were milled and bases were 3D printed. So the final result, the before and after, that we were able to conclude. Another ways are also for all on X cases. A good way to start is with good, a full denture design, being that these are going to be converted into a hybrid. These are going to be extracted, and eventually the patient will have a fixed prosthesis. But tooth positions is the most important part to set or to establish. So again, face scans are a big deal for this purpose. No matter what face scans you decide to use, but the proper alignment and the proper workflow that you need to is very important. That you need to learn to is very important. And utilizing the scan bodies, as I mentioned before. Another situation for this patient, establishing tooth positions, also from Medit intraoral scans, and we're able to print at least a way to try a partial trying, so to recheck and with the doctor and the patient the new or the desired tooth positions. Very easily, all these printed prostheses or meal prostheses can be customized with composite. Crealine from Breathing is one of them. It's a great and easy way to do it with the flowable and paste materials. So now the last topic that I want to get in is with the foot arch implant bridges. And I will talk about a little bit of the PIC bridge workflow. We established before the digitized data of the patient nowadays that is required for this process, especially for all on X cases, or is CBCT, intraoral scans with the Medit I500, facial scan, and photography, and good photos of the patient current condition. So we can put all this data together and be able to facially create facially driven prostheses, where we can utilize this on an implant planning software to be able to plan implants prosthetically driven. So this is one of those situations where we were able to create a surgical guide for an all-on-4 treatment, and after surgery and the conversion procedure of the prosthesis, this was a PMMA denture, ready to accommodate the interfaces to connect chairside. But a nice way to, after the conversion, is to capture this data with the Medit I500, just by utilizing some components like the scanalogs from dynamic abutment from PRIT, These are great to be able to digitize the convert prosthesis with and have this record in case something happens. Sometimes these prostheses, depending how they are fabricated during the transition of integration of the implants, 3-4 months, they normally or sometimes break. So very easily you can recover by digitizing the data right after the conversion. And this is a great way to do with utilizing the Medit I500. For already patients that they have already they have implants already integrated. So we have here, we can get records, proper records that already mentioned, but the intraoral scan with scan bodies, the accuracy depends of many factors. One of them is the tissue mobility, or actually also the tissue ridges form, also the scan body designs. So and also some processes in the lab that what you need to do to maintain that accuracy that is captured with the intraoral scan. So we have and developed some workflows for this process at FMR Prosthetic Center, and we have great success in minimizing appointments on full arch restorations. So this was on the first appointment. We got the records. We got the second appointment, the verification jig, and 3D print the implant model. This was verified with the one screw technique, screwing one screw and taking X-rays to verify all the sites to be in place. So is and then also on the second appointment, being that we were able to capture all the data, the face scans, as I mentioned before, we utilized the existing denture to capture the existing video of the patient, which was the doctor decided that was fine with the patient. And so the opposing dentition photos, and then we went right to design the provisional implement. Also for double arches, we can utilize the data with the intraoral Medit I500. This was captured with the Medit the same way with the scan bodies. Mill jigs were also done or fabricated, and then check with the patient for passivity. Some issues that can occur are most of the time on this process is actually in the laboratory, where care is not properly taken by the technicians or that are in charge of this process. So either the 3D print process or the milling process. So depending on the material also that you utilize for models, depending on the 3D printer also. I carry Visiotech and Siga printers, which so far show me a lot of one of the best accuracy for implant rehabilitation. And here we have to make sure that we have the correct seat of these type bases. This is at the first mill stage, but never try to adjust that by hand. You have to find the settings, the correct settings. So once you get that from your mill system, you can transfer that information from the intraoral scans to this mill restoration. Depending on some CAM software, have some options to easily assess this problem if you find this problem. So some of them allow you to modify the strategies. Other ones like Millbox have be able to add some tools where you can actually reassess these cavities where the tie base is going to be cemented or placed. So this is a case where we have a long span. Was scan was very difficult to take the situation was very difficult to get an analog impression. So with the Medit I500, we were able to capture and from there verify the passivity. Going back to the double arch case, this is the digital design for this patient and the final result. And this was on the third appointment. We were able to deliver provisionals for the patient. The only situation with, like I mentioned before, depending of the tissue mobility or ridge forms, sometimes the scanning technique, you might find some issues with full arch rehabilitation or scanning with with the intraoral scanner. So in this occasion, we had to section the jig into parts and be able to reconnect and go from there. But one of solution that we have, or we in FMR also put together, were to in conjunction with Chairside Lab Solutions, they is utilizing the PIC system. So we integrate the PIC system in our workflow in combination with the Medit I500 scanner, which now give us more credibility, more assertiveness, credibility to finalize these cases and minimize appointments from the patient. So the digital workflow, starting with the diagnostic process, as I mentioned before, the initial data required, intraoral scans, facial scans, CTVC, and photos. The planning phase for the prosthetic, which is facially planned, it's a facially driven prosthetic to be able to have implant plan, which is prosthetic driven. Now, the PIC system is integrated with all these data, and we can have 99.9% accuracy on passivity for the prosthesis. And the most advantage is at the final stage, just a new scan of soft tissues is recorded and a new final prosthesis is fabricated. So 3 appointments workflow. So a lot of this data that we capture with the intraoral scan is also, like I mentioned, utilized for immediate load in these big systems, surgical systems as well. So this is one of the issues. No, if you do analog, you have to pick up with cylinders, and this was in the past where I was capturing the implant positions, but now it makes it very easily to do so with the PIC system. But even though capturing this doesn't assure you that you are going to get that you're not going to have issues later on. So sometimes you have to reconnect jigs, even if you utilize other materials to assess, they become appointments can be extended to 3 or 4 appointments just for this process. So the PIC system is merged or married with the Medit I500, and that's what we did in FMR. With the help of Chairside Lab Solutions, we're able to provide the PIC bridge workflow for this patient, and in 3 appointments we were able to deliver the new 100% passive prosthesis. So the record took less than a minute, and we had the precise position, as you can see. This is with the Medit I500 getting the soft tissue records, and also the bite registration, face scan. One of them that we carry, Chairside Labs carry, and the body, but you cannot forget to get the body scans, body scans. In the lab also, it becomes very, if you have an in-house laboratory, in my laboratory we have a Medit desktop scanner, very fast scanner, where it helps us to a lot of the convert the analog process to the digital data. And you can deliver same day immediate loads with having with this workflow. From Chairside Lab Solutions, this is one of the services that they can provide you with an in-house lab for clinics, where in 7 days they can go from having an empty space, with previously planning and having all the consultation with them. You can have your own dental laboratory in-house. This was done with Dr. Nick Brand in Ocala, and we were able to help him to be able to do these cases in-house. So contact Chairside Labs if you have any questions in regards to this great service. So this case, in this situation, the patient had this problem, the very enlarged tongue, and doctor weren't able to scan, get a good scan with the intraoral scanner. So, but with some workflows that you can utilize, for example, taking an alginate and then scanning this alginate with the Medit I500 and inverting, now you have a positive of that soft tissue and also the multi-unit, for example. And now the prosthesis can be also scanned and then aligned later in any CAD software. So you can align the provisional to the soft tissue information. In this case, peak data was record and then aligned also in the software. For the next appointment, we had all the data for the provisionalization for this patient. In surgicals, it had helped me a lot on surgical appointments for immediate load. Also, the peak bridge, you can after all the different stage of the implant placement takes place. This was a case with bone reduction. Then the implant guide placed multi-units. One thing that I want to mention is that, developing or designing these guides, I see a lot of these implant or surgical system where they are pretty much set already with a one design for all. We take care, we customize this to the patient's mouth in the best way, so the surgery is not that aggressive. You can see here just buccal flap was done, and the palate was kept intact. Even the incisal nerve was kept intact. Also support on the teeth and support on the palate. So it's just to have put a little more extra time for on these cases. I think it will be a better experience for the doctor and for the patient. So multi-units abundance were placed and peak record. Also the intraoral scans from Medit previously with the on the pre-workout, and then aligned in the software and 3D printed, and immediate prosthesis was delivered on the same day. So that has been my experience, with the Medit I500 over these 2 years. I love my scanner. I'm happy that I make the decision to, acquire one intraoral scanner myself or for my laboratory. It has been great in all ways. I love about the the software, the Medit software, always improving, always adding new tools, new ways of making dentistry more fun and more easy to use. That's very important, and I'm happy that I make that decision. So I know we are having we're going through difficult times. I hope we go through this together, but stay positive, work hard, and make it happen. Thank you. I want to thank all our sponsors for this event: Medit, Chersa Lab Solution, Whitepix, Top Products, Breed, Allen Milling, and Megagen Implants. Stay well, and this is my information in case anyone need any consultation or any questions. There's going to be a Q&A session after Dr. Michael Scherer lecture, so I'll be there for anything that anyone has any inquiry or question. Thank you very much. Thank you to DDC for this opportunity, and I see you next time.
All right, here's a good case, first one of the year. So this is the stellar material, not the pink, but the white. And this case was actually picked up around 5 months ago. First time it came out of the patient's mouth was today. And you can see we had 0 D-lambs on the stellar product. Everything adhered really well, and no bonding issues, no cracks, no nothing. So definitely highly recommending the stellar from Top products.
Greetings, Earthlings. We're here today to talk about alienmilling.com.
What? No, we can't talk about aliens. Remember what happened last time?
You mean when you got abducted?
Yes, what if it happens again?
Well, you don't have to worry because we aren't talking about aliens. We're talking about alienmilling.com. It's a dental website. They're actually known for using the latest methods and technologies in milling top dental prosthetics. Oh, like crowns, plants, bridges, removable appliances, and space rockets? What was that last one? Are you still talking about aliens?
Oh no, I shouldn't have said anything. It's happening again. I'm being abducted.
Oh well, if you're looking for cutting-edge dental technology, go for alienmilling.com. You won't get abducted. We come in peace.
Hey everybody, this is Dr. Michael Shear, and it's really an honor and privilege to be able to be connected with you all in this exciting virtual format with collaboration with the DDC and the Intraoral Symposium. My name is Dr. Michael Shear. I'm going to be talking a little bit about in-house crown and bridge workflows, and specifically how a clinician such as myself can also work hand in hand with a technician to be able to deliver some really exciting applications and potentially exceed the patient's expectations of how dentistry should be in a dental office, and focusing specifically on crown and bridge dentistry. A little bit of background about me. I'm in full-time clinical practice in a small town clinical practice, Northern California, about 2 hours east of the San Francisco Bay Area. We're a very small community, only about 10,000 people in my small town. But we also have patients who drive to my area from 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hours away because we offer a very interesting and captivating digital way of doing dentistry where we can execute on things where many times a lot of other clinicians say, I don't think that can be done. And sometimes that's a little bit of a motivator for me when somebody says, Mike, that can't be done. I usually look at that as somewhat of a challenge because I can promise you that if you really think about digital technology and from a dentistry point of view, the digital applications of how scanning, intraoral, optical, and 3D printing, milling, and those types of technologies can come together, it can really have limitless potentials of what we can achieve in clinical practice. I also have some collaboration on the corporate side. I'm the Chief Clinical Advisor for Implants and Prosthetics for Zest Dental Solutions. I'm also an assistant clinical professor at Loma Linda School of Dentistry, and I'm a board-certified prosthodontist. If anybody would like to find out a little bit more information about me, my background, and some other activities I'm up to, check out my website, michaelsheardmd.com. As part of our Intraoral Symposium here today, it's really exciting to be able to collaborate with the digital dentistry craftsmen, and then also some of our fine corporate sponsors that you see down below. Many of these corporate sponsors and the products that I use on a day-to-day basis in my clinical practice. And I get a chance to share the stage with these two really incredible other clinicians and technicians. And what's really fun about this is that when we're connected together on social media, online, and through symposia like this, it's a very exciting thing because when we really learn together, we grow together. To be able to connect together, I find that social media is such a wonderful resource for what we can utilize in our day-to-day worlds. I've been able to interact with people from all over the world, country, throughout all different parts of this entire amazing dentistry profession. And part of that is by Facebook. And I encourage you to connect with me at Learn Dentistry, where we run a kind of a quasi-informational type of system where I post cases all the time and together with my other half, Dr. Melissa Chotel. If you're also interested, check out our website, www.learndentistry.com. The big question that we also want to really know about is why would we consider digital dentistry? Digital dentistry, we still ask this question today. Why are we still holding on to PVS? Why are we still holding on to the old ways? Many of those ways are really good ways, don't get me wrong. And some people will say, Mike, I want to be a 100% digital office. Very impossible to do, in my personal opinion. I don't think it's possible to be a 100% digital dental office or a 100% digital laboratory. But we can strive to get closer and closer. What we always try to do is try to strive on becoming as digital as humanly possible. And I find that it's really important for us to go ahead and talk a little bit about the patient cases that come to us and how digital can really improve these patients' qualities of life. Whether it's a simple tooth, number 19, or for my international friends, tooth number 36, a mandibular first molar. Patient comes in, we've already diagnosed it a few years ago, we have a leaky composite, it's breaking down, there's some cusp fractures. The patient needs a full coverage restoration here. Now this is routine dentistry. Anybody who says that I really have to have digital dentistry for this case, come on. You can do this case perfectly fine with analog. But how can digital dentistry really complement the ability of being able to look at this patient straight in the eyes and say, I'm going to be able to give you a tooth restoration that's really comfortable? Because look at her occlusion. She's in significant crossbite on both her left and right side. And sometimes in our laboratory, if we just get a triple tray only of just that one quadrant, we go, ooh, should I put this patient out of crossbite? Maybe fix it? Or maybe, what did their teeth look like before? Could I figure out a way that I could use the tooth how it is right now to guide me in my future restoration? Certainly digital helps that as well. And then we take a crown and bridge case on an implant, maybe a straightforward, simple tooth number 30, or for my international friends, 4-6. This patient may come to us maybe before COVID, maybe soon to be here after COVID. Doctor, I'm leaving for a cruise. I'm leaving for a cross-country road trip in 3 days. Can you get me this tooth? In a traditional world, I'd have to call up my laboratory technician, beg, oh please. And then my technician would be like, well, if you could overnight it and get it here, maybe I can pick it up really quick. Might be able to churn it out, but it's going to be really rushing. It's going to cost a whole lot extra. Versus if you have these abilities in your laboratory, your technician is working side by side with you in your dental office, like in my office. We can go ahead and churn out even a straightforward case like this in just a matter of a few hours, maybe a day and a half to 2 days max. And what happens is you can do that at the level of the laboratory as well, not compromise on the materials. Maybe, oh, I'll get you a temporary for now. We can go ahead and get you the permanent one when you get back from your trip. No, monolithic zirconia restoration in just a matter of a few hours up to a couple of days. Digital dentistry really empowers us to do some incredible things. Also, in the realm of digital dentures, I need a new denture. He's cracked his denture in half and he's got his, he looked at me and says, Doc, you're going to be mad at me. I said, oh goodness, what'd you do? He says, I broke it and I super glued my denture back together. I said, well, you actually did a pretty good job, just to let you know. There's a little gap in between your teeth, but we can fix that. I can go ahead and take this case and we can do a same-day digital denture in a matter of just a few hours. And then on top of that, maybe a little bit more complex workflows of doing rehabilitation type work. Maybe I need to get going on the rehab, posterior preps, anterior preps, patients having a little bit of a tough time maintaining some of the tissues around that provisional restoration. Can we hurry this up to get the patient their final restoration in time? Necessity is often the mother of invention, development, progress. And I use this proverb as a guide for me in my clinical practice because I found pretty quickly that when I adopted the digital workflow compared to my days of analog, I know it may not look like it, but I've been practicing close to 15 years now. And digital dentistry is not something that I've been doing forever. I kind of was a holdout for some time because I didn't really want to have to change my preps to do all ceramics. I didn't want to have to use a machine to do it all in an hour. I just wanted to do my same everyday prep, same everyday materials, just to do it with a scanner, printer. But at the time, these technologies were still in their infancy. However, slowly and progressively, I've switched over to digital dentistry, and I found that this is true. Just like some of the information we see out at Glidewell, 80% reduction of errors of cases for missing margins, a 60% reduction in cases for occlusion issues, and a 55% reduction in returns for fit issues. But overall, a 30% reduction in remake rates over time. And what we found is that digital dentistry across all different aspects and spectra results in more predictability and less stress. At least for this guy. I can tell you that is absolutely true for me. There is no question in my mind. The thought of going back to PVS impressions for crown and bridge dentistry horrifies me. I would probably stop practicing crown and bridge dentistry if somebody said, Mike, I got to take away your intraoral scanners. You're going to have to go back to PVS. And be like, implant dentistry, I could do that. But crown and bridge dentistry, wow, I would be really upset. And it's true because kind of once you get a taste of the iPhone or an Android phone, can you really go back to a flip phone? I know there's going to be some of you out there that says, I can do that. Yeah, this guy, no way. And I tell you what, my mother, she's 80, close to 81 years old now. And the idea of her saying to me, Mike, I can never go back to the old flip phone. 81 years old, and she does all this high-tech stuff. It's absolutely true. Once you get a flavor of digital technology, it's hard to go back. And the reality is that traditional dentistry is very accurate. Nobody's going to question the accuracy of PVS. And it's been around forever. It's a lower initial cost. It's initially simpler. You can send to any laboratory. Very simple. If you're a technician, you can receive PVS all day, every day. Versus digital dentistry. If you were to compare some of the benefits of that, it's equally as accurate. And in some articles, in many articles, it's even more accurate than analog dentistry. But for me, it's all about instantaneous feedback. To know that I can take my computer wand and turn the angle and be able to see the margin and know within seconds that I've captured the margin accurately and precisely, versus waiting 2 to 3 minutes, 4 minutes, assistants coming after me, look at my PVS and I go, oh, I missed the margin. Or even worse, I think it's there. Let me just send it to the lab and see what happens. Just terrible. I mean, the thought of doing that again is just really terrible. Now, it's also comforting, less stressful, faster, and assistants love it. Especially in a clinical office, it can get kind of boring to suction all day long. Hand a computer wand to an assistant, and it's like a new type of dental practice for them. Now, of course, we have some negatives of both the conventional and digital workflows. They're clearly there. Retakes, remakes, stone models. If you over-trim a die, you're cooked. Hopefully you can get a second pour out of the impression. It's longer, less comfortable, blebs, voids, and tears. How many of us have gotten a bubble on the margin? You say, just go fill it in with some wax. And you're like, oh, goodness. Higher upfront costs. There's no question in my mind that digital dentistry is more expensive than analog dentistry. It's a little bit easier to say, I'm going to go ahead and try this brand PVS, this brand stone versus this brand intraoral scanner versus that brand 3D printer. Once you kind of go down the digital route, you kind of have to say to yourself, God, which one's the best? Which one is going to work for me? Tell you the truth, they all work. The question is what works well for you. And also, it tends to be a little bit of a challenge for our technicians. Can I sync with your scanner? Can I get your files? Is it going to work with my 3Shape, exocad, dental wings software, etc.? You have to go through a little bit of bumps in the road to get calibrated for it before you're ready to get going. Now, also, the analog workflow clearly works. Make your impressions, catch your margins. You miss your margins, no big deal. Make a new impression, you're good to go. Alginate impression. All right, hold on to your butts. Jurassic Park reference. And then all of a sudden, I think I got it. Send it over to the technician, have them pour it up. And the same thing is true from restorative dentistry or implant dentistry. If you compare implant dentistry for all the different aspects of what we see for our analog workflow, it clearly definitely works. Traditional vacuum form surgical guides are a mainstay in clinical practice. Thank goodness I don't do this anymore, because the thought of having to do these little barium things and a wax up and duplicating the stone models, it's been a long time since I duplicated a stone model. With alginate, that is. So what happens is, if you think about traditional versus digital workflows, the traditional digital workflow corollary is absolutely there. Rather than me just saying, I want to change everything about my practice, the nice thing about digital dentistry is, instead of asking for the triple tray, I ask for my impression scanner wand. I ask for my i500. I ask for my Medit scanner. Hand it to me, and then it should do everything pretty much the same. Capture the maxillary, capture the mandibular arch. Instead of going with an impression, you're taking pictures. Same thing is true of implant dentistry. Instead of having to fabricate a vacuum form template, we can go ahead and do a 3D printed template, which arguably accomplishes the same, if not more, than those classic surgical guides. But the magic here is that the intraoral scanning workflow, in combination with digital production methods, allow us as clinicians and technicians to leverage some pretty incredible things of what we can do. But then on top of that, it allows us to get closer to our patients, where we can interact with our patients. I'll bring my computer scanner screen over, show it to my patient. Hey, this is what you can do. You can do some pretty incredible things. And I let the patient touch the screen. Wow, that's amazing. And for me, a lot of times, digital dentistry is all about creating a world-class experience. And here's an example of a real Google review from my practice. And this is a patient that came from a town about 2.5 hours away. And there's a lot of dentists in between that town and where he ended up at my practice. What brought this patient to my practice versus all those other dentists and prosthodontists in between me and where his house is? Part of it too is creating that X factor value, creating the connection of what we can do with digital dentistry. And digital dentistry allows us to really do some incredible things because this patient absolutely sought me out because of my digital dentistry approach. Because in many ways, this is the status quo. A bowl of alginate, outsourcing to a cone beam center, looking at the patient saying, I might be able to do that. Oh, I have to go ahead and check with my lab. We'll see. Versus the contemporary approach, scanning optically, scanning cone beam, merging the two together, looking at the patient saying, I can do that for you. Patient walking up to the front desk saying, I'm in it. Let's do this. When can I get started? What's our next step? I'm ready. And many of us will sit back and say, you know what? I'm holding out for iPhone number 13 because I heard iPhone 12 was good. I heard 12S is going to be awesome, but 13, that's really where it's going to get awesome. Imagine you said that at iPhone 4 or iPhone 3. In many ways, digital dental technology is not that different from digital technology because everything falls on this standardized curve. And if you take a look, I genuinely believe that we're still at the ascending portion of the curve of where we're way past the crazy people like myself, like all the other folks that we interact with online, the crazy innovators, bleeding edge categories, folks that don't mind doing the first round of something and dealing with the complications. And then we're past the early adopter stage, which is sort of kind of the folks that say, you know what, I'm going to let you figure out that initial, rollout of the first 10 cars coming off the line, but I'll take car number 11. So we're at the point of where everybody's kind of starting to look and say, I think I really just need to try out this scanner. And it's not your age. It's not how long you've been in practice. It's your interest level. I have folks from all different ends of the spectrum who are saying, I'm ready to get this digital stuff going. And there's plenty of other folks out there, the laggards and skeptics that are just holding onto their PBS and saying, you know what? I don't think this will ever happen. And many of those are online. And you see me interacting with them on social media because all as I do. If you're tuning into this, you think these folks are complete buckos. Okay, now they do quality dentistry, no question. Some of them are extremely talented, no question. And many of them are good people. But what happens is that, listen, digital technology is here. It's here to stay. It's a matter of time before all those analog approaches are completely eliminated. And it's frustrating too, because I know, the early adopters, innovators, bleeding edge type folks, we really look at this and say, how come only 15 to 20% of dentists and technicians have really embraced this technology? It's clearly higher on the dental technician field. It's probably close to 100% for dental technicians. But on the clinical side, 15 to 20% of dentists have adopted digital technology. Why? How come it's not 90%, 80%? These workflows are proven. Materials are proven. The shift is inevitable. So if we take a look specifically of how we envision the office of today and tomorrow, because I could spend days talking about digital technology, but we need to condense it into this hour session here with the Ddc Intraoral Symposium. I'd like to focus in on how intraoral scanning and building the in-office experience really creates a tremendous value for me in my clinical practice. Because I had this vision in my practice where I wanted to go ahead and create a very unique digital experience of where I could look at a patient straight in the face and say, I can do that for you, or we can do that for you, as soon as my team is assembled and we grow. Because I was at the point in my old practice where we were on top of each other, a smaller space, and my wife and I, who's an orthodontist, we said to ourselves, we're kind of outgrowing our space. Let's start to look for it, building kind of that digital and clinical experience here in my small town. And we're able to do that. I was able to build out a full laboratory where then I can recruit and bring in a full-time technician. So this is Chris here, and he's a removable technician. 30, 35 years on the bench, doesn't know anything about computers. He knows something about computers, but I say, hey, Chris, you want to click on something? He goes, wait, doctor, the left click or the right click? And he's very talented on the removable side, and now on crown and bridge side, very talented handling porcelains as well, because he knows what teeth should do. He knows what the occlusion is. He knows how a tooth should be positioned. It's those years of moving denture teeth around and figuring out things that really make it truly incredible. All I have to do is hand him something. He goes, I got it. And I love that, having that ability of being able to, kind of sync in a dental office where we're partners. We are working together side by side with patients in the office. And I love it. I genuinely think that this is the future of our profession. And I know some of you out there might say, oh, that Shearer guy, he's not pro-technician. Completely false. There's some technicians out there who say that, and they're pretty vocal about that, but there could not be further from the truth. I genuinely believe that technicians and the future of what we do together is a closer relationship between dental technician and dentist, especially in a combined clinical laboratory environment. But on top of that, it's also bringing together multiple clinicians to be able to keep a technician busy. Myself, I can't keep Chris busy 100% of the time. So I also have working with me Dr. Melissa Chotel, who's an orthodontist, who keeps him very busy doing clear aligner workflows and some very interesting things on the orthodontic space. So if you're sitting there and you ask yourself, okay, I want to be able to do this digital laboratory. I want to be able to create this type of environment in my clinical practice, and then also to be able to in a dental technician, maybe train my assistant to become a dental technician, whatever it may be. Ask yourself, okay, let's get right to brass tacks. What do I want to make? It's really all about thinking about how we approach making things, because 3D printing and milling are typically two very popular type of production methods of what we use in dentistry today. 3D printing is perfect for making models, surgical guides, denture tooth, prosthetic tooth try-ins, dentures themselves, and occlusal guards. Milling is really perfect and ideal for making crowns, dentures, and arguably still occlusal guards. If you're ultimately looking for that super clear occlusal guard, still got to be milled. However, for me, occlusal guards is all done with 3D printing now. The reality is that milling is not going away anytime soon. Some of us say that milling, it might not be around for that much longer. I tend to disagree. Even though many of you know me as kind of like this 3D printing nerd freak, whatever you may call it, it's totally cool. I'll accept all of those. What happens though is that 3D printing is really amazing. But for making zirconia restorations that I know I can look at the patient straight in the eyes and say, this is an incredible, lasts for a long period of time and it's going to look beautiful. Milling. Dentures, same thing. Occlusal guards, in some patients, same thing. So when I'm thinking about milling my restorations, ceramic restorations such as zirconia, emax, polymer hybrids, this can only really be accomplished with milling. Additionally, the milling process themselves can also lend to some very interesting approaches, such as RPD frameworks, polymers such as Trilor, glass ceramic hybrids, such as what you would see right in here, like a Crystal Ultra type product. So after taking a look at some of the goals of where we want to get to making things, it is very important for us to go ahead and talk about how we can approach how we start to generate those images to be able to make these things. First and foremost, determine what's the better fit for you, either a desktop scanner or intraoral scanner. If you're a clinician that does mostly clinical dentistry but wants to also do some of the in-house laboratory dentistry, really an intraoral scanner is kind of the ideal fit. If you're a laboratory technician that receives primarily PVS impressions, a desktop scanner is a much better fit. If you're doing digital dentures, I still argue though that you say, oh well, desktop scanner is a good choice for that. I don't know. I'm of the position right now where I think most clinical dentists, really the only thing that you really need is an intraoral scanner. Although if you're the type of person that likes to just hand off the impression, a realigned denture or an impression, an alginate to an assistant, pop it in the box, hit the button and it scans, that's a pretty desirable thing about a desktop scanner. Additionally, a CBCT scanner is a very important type of technology that we really should be taking a look at as well, depending upon your type of dentistry. You can also utilize a CBCT scanner to generate a lot of your optical images, and you'd be amazed how reliable you could be by scanning impressions and stone casts with your cone beam scanner. Also, we have to take a look at a variety of different manufacturing options of what we have available for dentistry. And typically it's broken down into a variety of different applications. We have the hobbyist level 3D printer, the production level 3D printer, or the milling machine, also known as a production milling machine. The hobbyist level printer, such as like a Sonic Mini or an Anycubic Photon, typically has the lowest costs, $200, and you can start getting into 3D printing. Lowest usability because, listen, it's a $200 3D printer. How usable is this thing really going to be? It's not really meant for production. It's meant for playing around and having fun, but you'd be amazed at what you can accomplish with these very low-cost production methods. And it also has the lowest flexibility. It's not simple to use. It's not right out of the box like other printers and other milling machines, but it's sometimes an exciting way to get started at a much lower cost point compared to the others. When you're pretty serious about generating things from a production point of view, a production 3D printer has moderate costs, somewhere in between that $3,000 and $15,000 to $20,000 range, has the highest usability, at least of these three categories, because you have the resins that are built into the software, everything's connected, you click next and it goes, very simple. And it has moderate usability or flexibility because you can't really produce everything with a 3D printer, but you can produce most things that can be utilized with photopolymers. Production milling is incredible because it has the highest flexibility. You can utilize any materials with contemporary milling machines. However, it does have the highest costs, at least of these three categories, and moderate usability. It takes a little bit more time for us to go ahead and get used to cam pathways and drillings and cavities and things like that versus a 3D printer. You just click next and it goes. And it usually prints just fine. So what happens is that as you start to break this down in your clinical practice, you'll find out which one of these approaches is most ideal for you. If you get lost, you get a little bit confused about these technologies, reach out to me on social media or connect with the digital dentistry craftsmen who have some incredible courses on how to go ahead and utilize some of these equipments and how you can go ahead and start expanding your production in your laboratory or your dental office. Let's jump back to our first case, our very simple crown on tooth number 19 or number 36 for international friends. Patient's been putting off this crown for a while. Why? It's got a big composite in there. It's doing fine, but she's really worried about the thing breaking down. So let's go ahead and move forward with a full coverage restoration for this patient. However, we can see here that the challenges that we have associated with this case is a routine number 19 crown. Pretty easy to do here, folks. However, with her crossbite, if you went ahead and just made a triple tray impression on only that left side, send it to your technician. Or if you're a technician, you got a triple tray impression, would you go ahead and set the patient into an ideal position or maybe know that they were going to be in crossbite? If the doctor didn't write on their set crossbite, what would you do? Sometimes you can say, well, I'll send along a picture, I'll make an alginate impression of the tooth, whatever. How many of us truly remember to go ahead and do those things before we start prepping the tooth? I know I've been there. So what happens is that we're going to do everyday tooth dentistry here. We're going to prep the tooth, go ahead and do our core buildup, foundational restoration, pack our cord. In my particular case, I like double cord technique, even for digital scanning. However, you can use X-Bacil, any of the retraction paste, you can use a laser if you so choose to do so. So the key here is that we can go ahead and just jam through to get right to the tooth preparation. However, we could be potentially missing a very important key information. I encourage you, especially for our intraoral scanner users out there, go ahead and take your intraoral scanner before you actually prep the tooth and scan the patient's opposing, their arch, and the occlusion. Using the pre-preparation mode or pre-restoration mode in our Medit I500 scanner, we can go ahead and image the patient's opposing dentition. We can go ahead and take our time casually while the patient's getting numb, even before we start prepping the tooth. However, then when we go ahead to the mandibular arch, we're going to capture the scan of the patient's mandibular arch of her tooth before we shave it down and prep it. And the benefit of this is it's going to create kind of a digital time point of the shape of that tooth even before we prep. Now at this point, we can go ahead and scan her occlusion and her challenging crossbite. And the scanner makes very simple operation for us to be able to go ahead and scan the occlusion. Takes a moment. Once we get the green light, we're ready to go ahead and then move forward. typically what I'll do is I'll go ahead and prep the patient like you just saw, place the cord, and then delete the tooth out of the preparation mode. Then go ahead, pull the cord, and then start scanning just the tooth preparation. It will seamlessly merge to the scan of the patient's dentition, capturing all the margins and the details effortlessly. And I know you can go ahead and say, well, I'll just create separate scans. I'll do this. I find this workflow to be really, really amazing because it's all packaged beautifully together for our technician. My technician receives one case file, which has the upper, the opposing, the lower pre-preparation, the lower tooth arch with the prep tooth in place, the bite, all together. So that way when they go to exocad or 3Shape or Dental Wing software, it's all together and they don't have to do alignments and things like that. So the technicians love this. But also for us as clinical dentists, we can take our time with our scanner, zoom in quite a bit and see everything in high resolution and detail. In a matter of seconds, we know that we've captured the margins adequately. Just as a little bit of a pro tip, what we're doing here is my assistant is going into the post-processing mode of our scanner, saving everything so that way before the patient leaves, while we're working on her temporary tooth, it's post-processing. I never send the scan to the laboratory unless I fully post-process it, and I typically don't let my patient leave the operatory until I'm finished post-processing the scan. Then when we go ahead and we take our files and jump it on over to our software, in this particular case is the exocad software, we're going to mark our margins, design my initial crown based upon the algorithms within exocad, and then merge the crown, anatomical crown, or our full anatomical contour. We're going to shape that to the patient's original tooth before we prepped it. This allows me to go ahead and take this kind of quasi-ideal tooth that you see here down in the bottom right, and then to shape it to the patient's exact contours, but fixing the little broken areas, the open contact. Like you can see here, I fixed the open contact, and she had a little spot missing around her tooth on the mesial. Then we can go ahead and design a model, send that to a 3D printer for 3D printing, send our crown to the laboratory mill, so that way we can go ahead and mill our restoration in zirconia. Then we can go ahead and 3D print the models, fit the zirconia crown to the 3D printed model. In this particular case, this is an alien 3D or an alien mill zirconia. We can go ahead and then place that using any sort of luting agent, cement it, and it fits on there effortlessly. Some minor adjustments, maybe proximal in tight context, but patient bit down and goes, "Doc, feels just right." And that's really what we're going after. When the patient looks and goes, "Wow, doctor, that feels just right." Or, "Oh my God, that's perfect." Well, that's really what we're shooting for. And what happens too is that you take a single simple implant or a simple tooth crown, it makes for very simple operation, just with one or two extra little tweaks. I can't imagine doing a single crown anymore without the pre-restoration or pre-preparation mode in my scanner. It makes for very, very cool operations, even if I'm not going to follow that closely. Just as a guideline for the shape of the tooth, it really creates a lot of value. And I can show that to the patient, how it's all overlaid. In my Medit software, I can go into the Medit link and show them as I toggle the slider back and forth. So that way I can go ahead and utilize this very effectively. And it creates value because I look at the patient and say, I can really copy exactly the shape of that tooth. So that way your bite is just right. Oh my God, doctor, that's amazing. I love that aspect. So now let's go back to our implant case. So this patient says, "I'm leaving for a trip in 3 days. Doctor, could you get me a tooth? Because I don't want to have a temporary. I'm going to be chewing on things. I'm going on this great trip. How do I approach this case?" Pretty straightforward. This won't be the exact same case of what you see here. This is just another example of a case I was able to film. That particular patient I did not film. But the idea is we can go into our Medit software, create the case file, and then go ahead and set this patient up with a very straightforward, simple operation. As we're ready to scan, we're going to scan the patient ahead of time in their maxillary arch. I remove the healing abutment, and this is on a maxillary case, not that same patient of the mandibular case. But on the maxillary case, I can go ahead and remove the healing abutment, scan the patient's soft tissues, and this will become my working soft tissue model. Take a few moments, get our scan complete, and it makes for very straightforward, simple operation. And what happens with this is that it allows me to capture the soft tissue emergence form of my scan. The soft tissue emergence form is really important because when we as a laboratory work together with my technician, he creates the right contours to match with that soft tissue appearance of this particular scan. As we're marching forward, we want to go ahead and capture all that information. As you saw right there, I went ahead and I can toggle on my working distance of my Medit scanner, which some other scanners may allow you to do that, but not as sophisticated as the Medit scanner. By being able to toggle that, it really allows me to control auxiliary soft tissues, metal artifacts, and it really creates for a very straightforward full arch scanning experience, especially as soft tissue gets involved in the arch. Now in this particular case, I went ahead and I scanned the entire maxillary arch. You don't have to. I just did this for fun for this particular teaching example. But here's my final scan, ready to go ahead onto our next step. We're going to capture the opposing arch. I'll spend some time to capture the opposing arch, beginning on the mandibular dentition. And I have that same working distance set here on my scanner, rolling across the midline, buccolingual, or facial lingual roll, jumping over to the other side, and taking our time to make sure that we complete the scan. You don't need a perfect scan since it's an opposing arch. We just need a good enough scan that will give us the occlusion. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and do our occlusion scan. I like to do my occlusion scan before I go ahead and do anything with the scan body. Why? Just because I find this so simple to do. Scan the bite on one side, scan the bite on the other side, and then I know I've got models that are really nicely articulated together. Sometimes when you add the scan body in there, it gets complicated and a little bit confusing. Scan the jaw scan, the opposing, the bite, and now we place on the scan body and go ahead and then just image the scan body. In my Medit software, I can go ahead and then just click on the scan body mode. It automatically will open up a new mode where I just literally just start scanning the scan body. And there's so many creative functions of what you can do with the AI scan body matching, as well as the color mapping for your color mapping fidelity overlay, which is a really unique feature with the Medit I500 scanner. Then what we're going to go ahead and do is that once all of that scan has been completed, we can go ahead and then start to jump to the next page, which is to start saving all of our information. Once we're done with the scan, we go into the post-processing mode, which will allow us to go ahead and verify that the scan has been completed even before we have the patient leave the operatory. A lot of times what I like to do is go ahead and double check all of this, so that way we can see that we've got a proper scan of the lower, the upper, and then also the scan body. And this is important too because I want to make sure that I've got all the details of this. It's not critical to have all the details associated with teeth on the other side of the arch, but if I'm looking really close at my scan body, I don't want to see any areas that are missing. If I'm using the AI matching mode, I want to make sure that the alignment fidelity is there. If I need to realign, I'll do that before I go ahead and dismiss the patient. Now at this point, I can go ahead and export my files. And after exporting my files, I can go ahead and then start to work with my design software. This is showing you the exact case of that tooth or implant number 30. We have our jaw scan here on the top left, our opposing in the bottom left, and then the scan body on that upper right, and then the bite mode. Exporting this into our exocad software, I can go ahead and align my scan bodies in exocad, digitally design my angled screw channel implant. In this particular case, we're going to go ahead and use an angled screw channel tie base. So that way I've got a challenging implant position that can be managed with a simple click of the button. Especially with the new Galway software, I can just drag that slider across and it creates for a very nice restoration that's still screw retained, even though I'm at a slightly off axis or off angled compromise situation. In this particular case, we're going to go ahead and mill with a standard katana zirconia, and then we're going to 3D print and then match everything together. Now at this point, we can go ahead and see the patient back, remove the healing abutment, place on our monolithic restoration, and place a composite restoration to seal it up. A challenging implant angulation made extremely simple with just routine intraoral scanning, simple approaches, a digital software, and creative channel, angled screw channel tie base abutments. Another clinical case. We're going to jump into our complete denture. Patient says, "Doctor, I broke my denture, no problem, you did a great job." I can use this patient's existing denture as a final impression method. Border mold light body impression wash, and use my Medit Intraoral scanner to go ahead and scan that denture 360 degrees. And this is a technique that I've been using for years. Utilizing what's called a reference denture technique, we can go ahead and scan the entire soft tissue impression surface with our Medit scanner. And then you can jump around as you're scanning, but typically I like to scan the entire soft tissue impression surface and then start wrapping on the buccal and then on the palatal of the denture. It makes for a very straightforward operation. The goal is that I can create this traditional analog impression, which would what you would do if you were to go ahead and do a reline, rebase, or jump for this patient's existing denture. What happens is that instead of taking it to a reline jig, I'm going to scan it with my Medit scanner before I do anything else. And the goal of this is that I capture a very nice, precise, reliable soft tissue impression by just scanning the patient's soft tissue impression. You don't necessarily need the purple marks here. That's just out of convention for me. However, it helps for a laboratory reline exercise if you're going to do the jig reline method. Now, going back to the buccal lingual roll, I'm going to go back to my land areas where the borders are and just start rolling my scanner, picking up soft teeth, rolling back, picking up some teeth, rolling back, picking up some teeth, rolling back. Don't just go all the way around because your scanner will get lost. The key here is we're going to go ahead and use our Medit scanner to use the soft tissue markers as our landmarks. And then the teeth will eventually become our landmarks for the other side as well. However, this is going to allow us to create a high fidelity situation where we can use this reference denture to design our entire case just simply with this one scan. And the scanner makes all this happen because you can do this with a desktop scanner, but I argue not as sophisticated as an intraoral scanner. Why? Because 360-degree scanning is historically one of the more difficult things to do with an intraoral scanner. However, the Medit scanner does make it very reliable and very simple to go ahead and use for this approach. As I continue to start scanning on the teeth side, I capture all the teeth in the dentition fairly straightforward. And then those become my landmarks as I jump forward. And I'll kind of jump forward on this video just a little bit, just because there's a lot of scanning and I want to show everybody here the palate. So now notice here on the palate, I've got all this extra stuff going on the palate. A couple little pro tips here is I do take a little bit of extra border molding material or I take a little bit of light body impression and I kind of squirt a little bit on the palatal surface. That allows for you to go ahead and reliably scan the palate because if you don't have any markers on there, it can be somewhat challenging to scan. Then I'll scan the opposing arch. And as I'm scanning the opposing arch, I'll go ahead and then take the patient's denture, reline denture, pop it back in his mouth, and then scan the patient in occlusion. This is an optional step. However, I do recommend doing it. I can do a digital denture on one arch alone because you're basically matching the patient's teeth that are in the reline denture. However, if you're going to go ahead and improve some things like I am going to do on the patient's midline and everything here, it's a good idea. Pop it back in the mouth and then scan the bite. And then the software will automatically merge all of these together. And it makes for a very straightforward operation where we can go ahead and then see here, align all these together. And now this is ready for digital denture design. Taking that into my software, I can go ahead and create a digital denture utilizing this patient's dentition. Then we can go ahead and 3D print the teeth. In this particular case, I milled the base because the patient was waiting, wanting to come back later that day. So I milled the base. It takes about 2-3 hours to mill the base, and then it takes about 20 to 25 minutes to 3D print the teeth. So instead of having to wait 4 to 6 hours for milling the base, then milling the teeth, I was able to go ahead and do it all in a few hours. Handing it off to my technician, he can go ahead and merge all these parts together so that way it creates for a very straightforward, simple operation. So that way we can then deliver that denture to the patient. Jumping back to our other clinical case of our patient needing to get going on this posterior rehab. In this particular case, we're going to go ahead and march forward with our posterior impressions utilizing a similar approach of what I showed you before. What happens here is that if I take the patient's scan, I'm going to scan this patient in sections and quadrants, pre-preparation mode. What we're going to go ahead and do is scan the patient's provisionals, then remove the provisionals, pack cord, and then scan the patient's crown preps. it will merge effortlessly together. What I'm doing here is just scanning the patient's maxillary dentition with the provisionals in place. Then I'm going to scan the patient's mandibular or opposing dentition. And this patient is wearing a mandibular all-on-4 restoration, which is going to be an important factor later on because we're going to be changing some things with his occlusion. However, I scan that, then I go ahead and I scan the occlusion or the bite, and I'll scan on the opposite side here as well. Finish my crown preparations, pack cord, do whatever you need to do. While the patient has cord sitting in place, I'm going to go ahead and digitally extract the teeth out of my second scan, which will then become my jaw scan. So I have my pre-preparation scan, which is that little blue flag there at the top of the screen, right in here. And then I'm going to delete the posterior segments out of that particular second scan, and then pull the cords, and then I can go ahead and image the tooth preparations. The scanner will automatically merge all of these scans together. When it's ready to go into my laboratory side of the software, everything is merged effortlessly so I can utilize the patient's approved provisional restorations that he's been wearing for 2 months, something of that nature. And then I can go ahead and match his milled or future zirconia crowns to his existing provisionals that are comfortable at his vertical, centric, bite, aesthetics, whatever it may be. And this is a fairly recent case. I just treated this case last week and a half ago in my practice, so I wanted to kind of throw in a pretty recent case into the mix. We can go ahead and then save that, do the post-processing mode, and then it would very straightforward be able to go ahead and simply utilize that aligned pre-preparation mode to design those crowns, simply by matching what you see right in here and right in there. In this particular example, we're going to go ahead and take this case over to the 3Shape Dental System software, design the crowns, and then go ahead and mill on my VHF mill. And my mill has a 10-disc changer, which is very simple for me to do even overnight. I'll go ahead and send this to be milled, matching the patient's existing contours within the 3Shape system. My final crowns have been milled. I can go ahead and then de-sprue those, or my technician will de-sprue those, and then go ahead and start to utilize them in our everyday workflow. Now we can go ahead onto our next step, close our mill, and the important thing to do is to go ahead and then get our 3D printed models ready to go. In this particular case, we're going to go ahead and 3D print these models on a pretty straightforward low-cost 3D printer from Whitmix. We'll 3D print that. And then we'll print that so that way our crowns can be adjusted. We can check our contact points, stain and glaze as necessary. As mentioned, I'm still working on this case. This is a case that I have in process. Just wanted to kind of throw something in there that was a really recent case, just showing you what I'm up to lately. My typical week will be just like you see right in here. I'll go ahead and do a couple of single implant crowns. I'll do a posterior rehab, a full arch rehab, mill a couple of provisionals, digitally design utilizing my intraoral scans, or like you saw here on the right-hand side of the screen, that's that patient's final denture down there in the bottom right, which would be an example of doing just everyday digital dentures in my practice. It's been a real pleasure to be able to be here today with you virtually in this exciting Ddc Intraoral Scanner Symposium. Feel free to connect with me here on Facebook at Learn Dentistry or my website, www.learndentistry.com. I look forward to interacting with you all online. Thanks for tuning in.
introduce yourself? Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here with us, the first DDC Intraoral Symposium. You know, we have a pleasure of having some top-of-the-line speakers here with us, Milos, Dr. Scher, and Sander. I would like to take this opportunity to ask you guys if you could present yourselves. Sander, if you can, just introduce yourself. I'm sorry, I don't hear you, Sander. I think you muted yourself. Okay, so we'll start with Dr. Scher.
Hey, you guys know me. Mike Shearer. I'm a dentist here in Northern California. Really a pleasure to be here. Thank you. Thanks for hosting us.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Scher. And then Milos, if you could introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Milos Miladinov. I'm from Romania, and I'm a dental technician since 2001. And my passion is dental photography and digital dentistry.
Hello, everyone. I'm Sander Polanco. I'm a master technician in New York and also co-founder of Digital Dental Craftsman. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you, guys. So, we have a lot of questions. We'll try to keep this kind of short. We have a lot of people that are very intrigued by what you guys are doing in digital dentistry. And I just want to take this opportunity to thank our sponsors before we get started with questions. Medit, for hosting this. Also, Digital Dental Craftsman, Chersa Lab Solutions, Preet, Bob, Megagen, VHF, White Peaks, and Alien Milling. All right, and without further ado, let me pull up some of the questions we had from some of the people. So, Milos, we have someone named Robert Sanker. He wants to know, from your presentation, the glasses that you presented on, if they can be used with other intraoral scanners.
Yes, they can be used. It's Epson Moverio BT35E, and it can be used with every scanner that has an HDMI output. So basically, if you can plug in the glasses to an HDMI graphic card of your PC or laptop, whatever runs your intraoral scanner, it will work because it's just a pair of glasses that actually are mirroring what you see on the screen in real time without any delay and latency. So basically, they are compatible with everything. But now they should wait a little bit because the new model is coming on the market very soon, or it's about to be released. So that one will be absolutely fantastic.
Thank you, Milos. And then we also have obviously some questions regarding the Medit system, and I want to get into those questions. For Dr. Scher, obviously some people see that you use a lot of different scanners, and they want to know, which one, why do you choose a scanner over another one? And, primarily for removables, what's your advice for this person if they're doing removables? Which scanner would you use?
Yeah, I'm a bit of an enthusiast, as many of you know. So I like to play with new technology and scanners, and it gives me a good breadth of kind of the different features and technologies that are out there. And I never like to choose between my children. I've got a few children in the practice, and they're always, each one of them is unique and wonderful. The Medit I500 scanner is a superb scanner. It's really, really incredibly capable of doing some truly amazing things, including innovative techniques, especially with implant dentistry. With implant dentistry, the AI scan body mode is really remarkable. And there's a lot of other features within Medit where it gets, super, super detailed. But that's the one feature that, if you're doing a lot of implant dentistry, scan bodies, it's just like boom, boom, it works every time. I didn't have a chance to show it in my presentation, but the AI scan body matching function is wonderful because you just tell what scan body implant system you're going to scan in your program work order settings and the little button down below. And then as soon as you scan just enough data where the scanner goes, hey, I recognize that, you're done. You don't have to do all the details and get all the nooks and crannies, because we tendency to over scan a little bit, I think, in most of our cases. And you have to watch out with over scanning. But what it comes down to is that, you really look at removables and removable scanning, and I don't know, call me a naysayer, but I'm just not super into intraoral edentulous scanning. I think it's a little bit of a, hey, this is what we can do on social media and this is what's cool on Facebook. But in the real world, I end up just using a reference denture for almost everything. But what it comes down to is that the Medit scanner can very easily scan an edentulous maxillary arch. It's not very difficult to scan an edentulous maxillary arch, but a mandibular arch is a much different thing. So what it comes down to is that, if you're looking specifically at removables, the Medit scanner, 3Shape scanner, the Midmark scanner, the Prime scanner, they can all scan pretty well for edentulous type cases. And just about every scanner on the market can do the reference denture technique with a few exceptions.
That was another question. Someone named Mike asked, what features is it that you really like about the Medit? And you mentioned some, but is there other features that you like that the Medit has that you don't see with other intraoral systems?
Call me a naysayer too, but I tend to focus just in on the scan and the simplicity of the scan. Every time I'm turning around, the Medit team is making the scanner easier to use. So that's the simplicity of the scan is the number one reason when people say, what scanner should I get? Well, what feels the most natural in your hands? What it comes down to is that also, from a price upgrade point of view, I mean, considering how much they pack into the scanner for the price point, the Medit scanner is really a tough thing to beat. No annual fees as well, which is pretty remarkable. I'm never really that particular about annual fees. So, I mean, I probably spend way too much money per year in annual fees. So I see some heads shaking about the technicians. Also, it's way too much money. I mean, it's like a new car every year, but I don't know, it's still worth it. Just the cost of doing business.
No, thank you. And I just want to make sure, Sander, can you speak? And
yes.
Oh,
yes.
Okay. There you go. Just want to make sure everything is on.
Yeah,
And
sure.
for Sander, we had someone ask, the attachment that you showed on your presentation, was one that the patient kind of bites on. If if this file can be acquired, or how can someone get a hold of this?
Yes, so the AFD scan body system, yes, also Milos showed that and showed the system in the presentation. So through ShareSide Lab Solutions, they can request these devices, yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then a lot of people asked a lot of questions about dentures, about digital workflows for dentures. So maybe I'll kind of just leave this one up for whoever can kind of answer this question. And in particular, like to show, you were mentioning how it's difficult to scan the lower arch. So as far as workflows for digital dentures, what are you guys doing? How are you getting digital dentures done?
If I showed you how I made a digital denture, you'd probably be embarrassed. I mean, it's like 1955 still. I mean, honestly, there's still nothing wrong with the way that you made a denture back in dental school or in your denturist program. I mean, sometimes when we go online and on Facebook, social media, you see all this super fancy stuff, and all this digital Facebook, all this other stuff. I am so boring when it comes to a digital denture. It is like literally like taking like a mush bite, sticking it on a little articulator, and it just freaking works every time. And I found sometimes when you get a little bit too fancy, things get lost. Like I don't Gothic arch trace, like maybe once in a while. I mean, it's just too much work. I mean, it's, if you're looking at a case and saying, okay, what is the most predictable way? This is the most predictable where it's going to work almost 100 times out of 100. It is the reference denture technique. 99.9% of patients who come into my office have something in their mouth, like a nasty denture even, but they got a denture, something like that. So you take their denture, you border mold, you PBS wash. It's literally like you're going to do a reline in a denture. And I wrote an article on this. You can go check it out, learndentistry.com. There's several articles about it. I published a few things on it too as well. Other folks have picked up on it as well. And it's very simple, because all you do is imagine if you're a technician tuning into this program and I'm the dentist and I'm saying, okay, what do I got to do to do a reline of a denture? All right, take the patient's denture, hollow it out, PVS impression, closed bite wash at what we call closed bite impression, or closed mouth impression. So bite down, vertical dimension, border roll, all that other stuff. Tap, 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 remove the denture. And then instead of me taking the denture and just putting it in a box and telling my lab technician in my office to say, oh, just do a reline jig, reline, rebase, you're just taking your I500 and you're scanning it. And I started doing that not because I wanted to do digital dentures. This is years and years ago. I wanted to make surgical guides. So I was taking reline impressions inside dentures because I thought the idea of using barium sulfate and these little stickers on a denture is horrible. Like, I hate doing that stuff. It just nauseates me. So I took a PVS impression inside of a denture and I found, oh my goodness, you can use a scanner and scan this thing 360 degrees. I wonder what we can do with that. So the magic of the reference denture technique is that without all those gimmicks and digital things and the Gothic things and this thingy, I love simple things. I was blown away too by Milosh's and Sanders' digital Facebook, because it's so simple. That's what I like, simple technology. So if you're going to do a digital Facebook, do it that way. But all these other little jigs and things where you take a denture, cut it in half, and scan the bite in the mouth, it works. Don't get me wrong, but keep it simple. Imagine you've got a denture, reline impression, scan it 360 degrees, scan the opposing, put the denture back in the mouth, scan the bite, goes off to the laboratory. Then I did a presentation for you all for DDC, if you remember, not too long ago, about taking that digital denture and as a plug, go to the Facebook channel, DDC. There's a program that I did where you can take that reline denture, bring it into Mesh Mixer, extract all the teeth out of there, invert the model, just like you're pouring a stone cast, flip it over, and then boom, you've got a jaw scan. And then you also have the teeth, the vertical, the centric. I can't think of a more perfect way of doing digital denture, honestly.
No, there's someone named Schnell that asked, what if the patient does not have existing denture to capture the wash impression? Because he finds it really hard to scan a patient's soft tissue inside the mouth. Any tips or tricks?
Yeah, so hopefully as technology evolves, I mean, the digital scanner companies are putting a ton of time and energy into this. And, 3Shapes really put a lot of energy into it with their Trio scanner, with some of their edentulous scan workflows. So that's been really good. But what it comes down to is that for that 0.1% of patients that come in without a denture, I don't know, man, pull out the alginate. Do an old-fashioned analog denture, get to the wax rim like Sandra was talking about, and then scan it at the wax rim if you want to do that.
Scan the denture. Scan the impression.
Yeah, scan the impression with your scanner. I mean, there's 200 ways that you can get started with a digital denture. Any one of the steps along the analog workflow, you can start a digital denture at.
And a question for, I guess, all of you would be, where do you guys see digital dentures, in the near future? Do you feel like it's there yet? It's not there yet? What's your thoughts on that? Sander.
Yeah. So I've started my my career as a removable technician, specializing in dentures, full dentures. So for many years I've been doing dentures analog. I still do dentures analog with good ivocap injection methods, or the press method that I used to do, when I started my career. So now implementing digital, I still very undecided in going fully digital, because I believe that every patient and every situation has their own. You can apply, what the preferred method for that situation. Like for immediate dentures, I found that it's easier to do immediate dentures with a digital workflow. But even then, I prefer to give the patient a final, well-processed base by including, like I said in my presentation, a copy where the doctor can provide this for a week, and they can take just a regular PVS impression, and I can utilize the PMMA teeth, but now with a well-processed, well-adapted base injected. So in that case, I found it that is more long-term. Milling systems, I wanted to see what eventually new materials on the printing side, better materials will become available. But on the milling side, yes, there are milling systems that produce a well-adapted denture base, but at the same time are very expensive. So you have to kind of see what it makes sense for you, or what makes sense for the product or the appliance or the prosthesis that you are providing in your laboratory, and also the cost that the patient is going to have, what it makes sense. So
Now that's a good segue to ask Milos. I know Milos, you have some of the PM machines, and you're milling the dentures out with the PM. What's
Actually,
your thought on
all
that?
all my patients are like 30, 40, so they don't have dentures. I never done one, and I will never do one. So I'm not into dentures at all. I'm into veneers, crowns, bridges, implants, screw retained, let's say mostly, but dentures not. Programmil, the one I have from Ivoclar, it's really designed for this job. I mean, I know a friend of mine from Canada, Eric, he's doing a lot of these dentures using the Programmil and Devotion system with 3Shape. So I know it works. I know it works very well. I haven't tried with Medit to scan any edentulous patients yet so far.
And I know you've been talking, for Medit and kind of been a proponent of the Medit scanner for a long time. As far as Medit Link, I know you have some experience with that. What are some of the features that you like about Medit Link?
I don't know. Now everything becomes pretty much similar to the competition. They all get the same similar features. I like that I can have contact very fast with all my dentists because I work with all my dentists from abroad, so I don't work with dentists from my country, and we can get instantly the impression like every other software do. So it's not a big difference. I like that Medit, it's putting a lot of energy and developing a lot of new features. For example, for not Medit Link, but for Medit Scanner, I like to use the face scanning option, because it gives me a very fast preview of the patient, and I can at least, if that dentist doesn't have the AFT face scanning option and the scan bodies, then he can just use this feature from Medit Intraoral Scanner. But
Now, I was
Medit,
wondering, let me ask on that, on the facial scanning with the Medit, does it change the settings in order to do that facial scanning? I know it's still a small area, but does it change something?
No, I don't change anything. I just set it up when I make the order. Yeah, I set up the face scanning option just to start after I finish the last part, like the bite. Yeah, and then I can continue scanning the patient. I've done already like 4 or 5 cases recently with this feature, and I can say it's absolutely fantastic. It saves you a lot of time, and it's replacing actually, let's say, a part of AFT, not completely.
Thank you, Milos. And Dr. Scherer, I wanted to ask you, for dentists that are looking to, go digital, and maybe they're on the fence about building their own lab and doing kind of what you're doing, any comments as far as like pros and cons, things you found? Would you recommend it?
Yeah, no question in my mind. The future of our profession is laboratory technicians and dentists working side by side. I genuinely believe that. And I genuinely believe that it's not just one person being able to do everything. That's just not possible. There's just so many things that it's a team effort. And it really is going to take a team effort to get there. For the dentist really thinking, do I dabble or do I go full in? All I can say is that I wish I got my current mill 3-4 years ago when I first kind of said, let me just go ahead and do this full build out, because this R5 mill that I got is just so good, man. 10 discs, I just plug it. And part of the thing is you don't realize this stuff, when you're like, it's so expensive, I'm just going to be cheap about it. And it's totally, I mean, don't get me wrong, I am cheap. Okay. But my wife, she has to cut up my credit cards every year because of course I think I'm cheap, but I'm actually probably the expensive one. in the relationship, you know what it is. But what it comes down to is that when it comes to dentistry, you know, you make a choice. Do I either go super cheap and affordable and then just takes a lot more time and it's a lot more, you know, pain in the butt? Do I spend a little bit more money for that flexibility and power? So one thing that I like too is about a mill that has a disc changer and then just buying all the software. Yeah, okay. It's easy to say 3 years ago I should just done it, but maybe I wasn't ready 3 years ago. So 3 years ago, 4 years ago, whatever I started my in-house everything, you know, there was this challenge of where I just said, okay, I'm having difficulty where I can really effectively get the job done. And I was working with a lot of great labs. Don't get me wrong, but you know, et cetera. I just had a need for it in my practice and to bring in a technician in my practice. I'm at the point now I probably could use 2 technicians. So I don't know if there's a fixed technician that wants to move to middle of nowhere, California, send me a messenger on Facebook. And it's cheap and yeah, it's beautiful. But long story short, what it comes down to is that part of the value of that is you either say, okay, stay nimble and thrifty, which is a good idea, or do I go all in and have it all there? Yeah, I really am very happy with my decision. I mean, just in the past couple weeks, it's like, you know, between my technician and I, we were able to jam out probably 60 units, and the dentures, and being able to program all of that where I program it. The meal starts at 5:30 p.m. I walk back in the morning and everything's done. I've got dentures milled, I've got crowns milled, and my technician just jumps in and just goes. And on the software side, no question, the clinicians that are getting started, the hardest thing to get started with is software. So a lot of clinicians reach out to me and say, what should I do? One of the smartest things you could do is spend a little bit more on the machinery equipment and then outsource the designs. And through the DDC, there's an incredible connection network of folks that are willing to do digital designs for you at very affordable costs as well in a short period. And then you get some true experts that are just incredible. I mean, know this stuff far better than me that just pretends like he knows ExoCAD and 3Shape. But it's really, that's, if we can't collaborate side by side next to each other, at least we can do it through the internet. So that's a great way to get started.
I think that's definitely, go ahead, Milos.
Yeah. So from my point of view, for example, since I work like for the last 3-4 years only international, and we don't feel the need like to have the dentist here, or they don't feel the need to have the technician near them, because we have a very simple minimalistic workflow. All my dentists, they all have the intraoral scanner, the face scanner. Let's say if they have Medit, they can use it directly from Medit, or if not, they have the AFT. And they have a chairside printer. So this is, from my point of view, for every single dentist that want to start digital right now, let's say, and they see this presentation from us today, this should be the first step, to get an intraoral scanner and the chairside printer, and then they can start very predictable with all the cases, because they send the, let's say, the impression in the morning, they get the STL file like in 2-3 hours from us, and they can print out the mockup and do the test drive or the mockup for the patient in the same day. And that's a win-win situation for everyone. And then if the patient is approving the mockup, then definitely you can go to the preps and send the final impression. We already did the design one time, so basically we just have to overlay it, print, mill, whatever it takes, and then finish the case in a matter of days. So right now, the digital dentistry give us the opportunity to work extremely fast, extremely precise, and very predictable, yeah.
Well, you know, I think that digital dentistry overall is you know, making dentistry so much fun. You know, and Michael could say that. It's
Well,
really
it'd be
fun.
boring, man. I mean, come
Yeah.
on.
You know, I don't know what other field gets to play with all of these toys that we're getting to play with. So I definitely love the field we're in.
Yeah,
You
that's
know,
crazy a little bit. Yeah, I got like 4 printers already, and another intraoral scanner is coming on the way. So a lot of toys, and I'm not even a dentist. Can you imagine?
I know that's what I said. No, it's really cool. I mean, you know, but I think the bottom line and the main question is, does it make us better technicians, better dentists? You know, let's say, Sander, from your perspective, you know, do you feel like, you know, digital dentistry has made you better as a technician?
Yes, yeah, for sure. Yes. I can, and also it has helped me to really integrate myself more with the clinical, you know, with the dental team, either on surgical or prosthetic workflows, and it has helped me to be able to communicate better with my doctors. You know, to show them what issues are with the cases, to be able to them understand kind of the workflows that we have to do in the lab. So I think it not only helped me, I think it has helped dentistry overall. You know, that really to become more unifying, either the lab and the clinician working more together and understanding each other, because there was for many long time this division that, you know, the clinician don't have too much information to be able to do their job properly. So I think now offer us a lot of tools, especially with the intraoral scanner. When I make the decision to acquire, being a lab and not a clinic, but I think that was like kind of the bridge. It helped me to bridge that gap, or even more integrate myself more in that aspect of the clinical church side part of it. So um,
Very good. And what about you, Michael? Has it made you a better dentist?
No question.
Wow.
Long story short, you know, there's a lot of folks out there, especially in the analog forums and whatnot on social media, that just start whining and complaining about how, you know, it's like digital dentistry, these digital dentists and these digital technicians, they're not really that great, blah, blah, blah. And it's just a crutch and a tool. What a lie. The reality is that digital doesn't necessarily make you a better prepper, a better dentist and everything. I think Milos commented on that as well, very articulately. What it comes down to, though, is that it doesn't, in my opinion, it doesn't hurt. For me personally, I really hate doing crown and bridge dentistry. Like I hate it. Like in the era of PVS dentistry, I mean, the thought of doing, full arch, a full arch crown and bridge dentistry with PVS completely nauseates me. And I used to have stress about, missing the margins, like, oh my God, I missed it again. Oh my God. And then digital, it's like in the past, 6, 7 years or whatever using digital, it's like, I look at a case on the schedule, I'm like, I never stress. I never fall behind in my practice. I used to, 1 out of 10 cases, I'd be running behind in my office, and I have like the margin from HE double hockey sticks, and the patient that's like, hey, what's that? And long story short, I'm just like, now with digital, I never run behind. I never get any issues from my lab tech. My lab tech's like, yeah, I can always see the margin. And if I don't have the margin, I just hit the delete button, rescan it with my scanner, and I know within seconds. And that's, I mean, even if you charge me double my intraoral scanner price, I would pay it.
Wow.
Honestly, because it's just, for me, it's worth it. For everybody else, I mean, that's a different story. There's a lot of folks out there that do very routine dentistry with triple trays all day, every day. But me, I don't know. I grew up playing N64 and classic games, and I don't know. There's something about the computers and video games. It's like we're playing a video game every day with the scanner.
As a lab technician, when you get in the lab, a dentist sending you like 2, sometimes 3 impressions on the same tooth. It's like, man, they probably should get a scanner.
I thought I remember seeing a post one day. I think it was from one of these big labs out here in California. I won't name any names, but somebody sent in like 3 triple trays, and it says do full mouth rehab. And I'm like, what? The idea of just saying, okay, the one feature that I probably use every single day, and I wish I had it in analog, was the pre-prep mode. Okay. It's literally a night and day difference between the dentistry I used to do before pre-prep and now with pre-prep, because every single case I do pre-prep, and then every single time I'm like, oh, look, there's the buccal contour of what it should be. Oh my God, just that one feature alone, I think, makes us better dentists and technicians. And my technician can provide a better product knowing, oh, here's the tooth shape ahead of time. Maybe I won't match that exactly, but I'll know as a reference so that we don't make it too bulky, et cetera.
As we're, close to wrapping up, Milos, I also wanted to ask you,
can I add something about this comment that was before?
Yeah, absolutely, please.
Digital dentistry is the same like dental photography, like when I first time took my camera in hand, like 2012, and I thought about myself that I'm a very good dental technician, and I take a first photo of my first case that I wanted to do at that time. And I saw how crappy that case is, ugly. it's looking really, really bad. And then I had a shock, and I couldn't believe my eyes that I was working that bad. And that's what's happening to most of the dentists or technicians these days if they start using these scanners, because they get afraid of how bad their work is. Actually, their prep are looking like something. And then they want to quit, let's say, digital dentistry, just because they see their mistake on a huge screen like that big, you know.
No,
And that's depends how you see it, but for me this was a blessing, because that's the day when I started working twice as much to improve my quality, twice as much to learn from my mistake. And that's how we can use digital dentistry to be our best teacher. Basically, what we see on the scan, on the screen, can help us improve every day. Yeah, we do a lot of mistakes, everybody's doing a lot of mistakes, but we can improve them. Before, we couldn't see them.
yeah.
Now it's easy.
And that's where I wanted to ask you. You talk about virtual patient, and I know you take a lot of photography, and you want that for your cases. But I see now you're implementing like the facial scanning. Like how important is it to you now, or what do you see this facial scanning?
For me, it's not now important. It's important since the last 3 years, when I met the owner of the AFT face scanner, and he did the first course, international course worldwide. It was in our training center in Timisoara. And after that, other big names, let's say, took advantage of this face scanner, but I was the first, or one of the first in the world to use it. And since then, I could not stop, because this gives me a lot of valuable information for my patient. I wanted to create a perfectly complete virtual patient with face scan, CBCT, and intraoral scan. And since then, we never had a stone model. We quit all our analog dentists, and we started working only with digital. It changed my life completely. So we don't have any dust in our lab. When you come to us, everything is printed, everything is milled, everything is completely clean. You can, I don't know, it's different era of digital dentistry. For me, that's predictable dentistry. It's better communication with the patient, better case acceptance and approval, and much faster workflow. So it's a lot of
It's
things.
like you have the patient in front of you. You're looking at a 3D image of the patient.
Every day, yeah. And all my patients are from, let's say, 1,000 miles, 2,000 miles away, and so on. So I never see them. Yeah.
What about you, Michael? Are you using any, facial scanners and stuff like that in your workflow?
If I was doing veneer cases, I would. But it was funny, like Milos was saying, you never touch a denture. I totally respect that. It's interesting too, because we're, at different endpoints. I mean, me, it's like the thought of doing a veneer case, absolutely not. I would never want to do one. I've done quite a few, and I'm like, no, thank you. But a digital denture is like fantastic. So, for using that system for digital denture is really nice. But I think you could probably get most of it with just standard photography. But it's really amazing technology. The digital face scanner stuff is pretty incredible. Me personally, I do the vast majority of what I do with just photography, and then overlaying photography with the scans, or even just guesstimating at the smile line. I think it's good enough for me. But
Portraits works really good. Portraits are really good, so you can use them very, very well.
Absolutely. And I have tremendous respect for folks. I mean, I think if you're going to do it, just use the technology like you saw with Milos and Sander. I mean, that is really great stuff and very affordable. What I loved about the message too was very affordable face scanning technology, as opposed to buying another brick that's 20 grand sitting around in your office. But the reality is that it's wonderful technology, and whatever kind of gets you excited. Like, I can tell what's getting Milos excited is the stuff he's doing, and the passion of what I see with folks like that. You just run with it, because if you're not into it, don't do it.
Yeah, I was inspired by Javier Vasquez like many years ago, because he started doing the first guy in the world to use the face scanning technology with CBCTs and use it with implant cases and intraoral scanners. But he was using a very expensive technology that not too many people can actually afford. And I was struggling to find a way to make it accessible, to make it super fast, super affordable to everyone, and you can implement it after just a simple training. So basically, I like simplicity. Like in dental photography, I simplified all the protocol of taking photos and take everything to extremely simple. The same, I took and I did with digital dentistry. So when I created this full digital workflow, I wanted to make it for every participant or every student that comes to my classes, that they can start next day and they can afford it and use it. So that's the idea.
And Sander, as far as this topic, the facial scanner and other digital equipment, for full arch workflows in your lab, any thoughts on that?
Yes. So, if Milo was the first, maybe I was the second in the world. I'm kidding. But I implemented almost like right after the EFT, and that was because I saw Milo's one of his Facebook videos that went live, and I said, I would like to try and see how that can help my workflow, and yeah, I like the simplicity, and it does help some of my workflows. Now I implemented in the PeakBridge workflow that we use for full arch all on X. But I think it has its place in depending of the case. I don't implement it in every case of fix or every removal case. I think on situations that really deserve more attention, or maybe you need to really have more information from the patient, especially the occlusal plane, could be tricky depending of the lip position. So I think depends of the case, but for cases like for the all on X cases that you need to really minimize the share time, being that these cases demand a lot of share time. Patient appointments. So I think that it does help to reduce the miscommunication. It does help to reduce the appointments. So on those situations, I think it does help a lot for the technician, the practice, and the patient to minimize this.
All right, so thank you guys so much for being part of this, the first Intraoral Symposium that we hosted here at DDC. I would like to ask Milos if you could let people know where they can find some information about you and what you do.
So they can find all of the information about my, let's say, coaching and educational part for a full digital workflow on dentalpromaster.com, and also about my training about dental photography. Just one little thing to add in the end, I want to say that Medit is really fantastic because I discovered like 2.5 years ago when I actually made public the first case ever done with this young lady that is behind me, that you see it in the video. The dentist sent the patient to me for just to check if we can do some veneers. And what I did, I scanned the patient, I did a mock-up. She said yes, she likes it. I did the refractory veneers for the first time with a printed model. So we had printed model with removable dies, and then I duplicated the removable dies with investment material that was like 2.5 years ago with Shera material, which is absolutely fantastic. And I was the first one in the world to use this technique. And I created the veneers myself, and I just tried them in with a Trine gel from Ivoclar. And I just called the dentist and I told him, please, can you just come and cement some veneers? And he was like, what? Seriously? I finished the veneers by myself using the Medit intraoral scanner, and of course, the other technology that also I explained in the lecture. And now this will be also published in a very famous book. I cannot talk about this yet. It's a very famous dentist, maybe the #1 in the world right now. And I was really proud that Medit scanner was extremely accurate, that I was in shock. That was my first time doing a very, let's say, precise case with 0.1, 0.2 millimeters thin veneers. And I couldn't believe it that a digital scanner can be that accurate. Of course, using the Shera Print P30, which is extremely accurate printer, and so on. So digital dentistry, it's really impressive for me, at least. I love it.
Awesome. Thank you, Milos. Thank you very much. And then Dr. Scherer, maybe final thoughts on Medit and where people can find out about you and what you do and some of your courses and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. The most important factor of when we're thinking about going digital is number one, just have fun. You know, if you're not having fun with it, it's just not worth it. And it doesn't matter what your age is. It doesn't matter what your background is. I mean, I can see why Sanders' work is so nice. A trained removable technician, just like Chris in my lab, 35 years at the bench. Okay, hasn't really used computers ever. And you should see the stuff he's doing in my lab now. It's so much. And he's like, every day he's coming in with a smile on, just breathing, you know, ear to ear, so pumped about what we can do with digital dentistry. And whether, you know, you're at the beginning or the end of your career, it really doesn't matter. Some of the most fun I've had with teaching and getting involved with digital dentistry is seeing that transgression, and as well, not transgression, but the transfer of the folks that are literally converting over from analog to digital, which some would say is a transgression, right? But what happened, maybe a slip of words. That being said, the reality is what happens is have fun, whether you're at the beginning or middle or end of your career. If it's the right thing for you, do it. If you're 70 years old, do it. If you're 22 years old, do it. You know, learn from us, see the folks that have been in the trenches and know the ways to do it. And, you know, I'm happy to be a part of the growth of a lot of folks around the country and the world. Many have taken my courses, and check them out, www.learndentistry.com. And we have courses, and part of my online course too, we feature the Medit I500 scanner and how to use it for crown and bridge workflows, digital dentures, you know, crown and bridge, how to stain and glaze, everything step one to step whatever you decide to go ahead and do. But the reality is, numero uno, number one, just have fun.
Yeah, and just as an add-on for what you said, it's like super cool that we have been in the trenches, like you said, and we learned the hard way. We learned by doing a lot of mistakes and spending a lot of our money trying this, trying that, see what works, what not. But what's beautiful about others who want to join digital dentistry, they can take the package. They already know what to buy, they already know what to go for, and they already know the shortcut to success with digital dentistry, because they can attend your course, Mike, or they can attend Sanders' course or my course, and they can get the shortcut to success. Very easy.
Thank you, Milos. And then Sandra, your thoughts about Medit, and then just where people can learn more about you, you know, what you're doing.
Yes, so yeah, great scanner. Like I said, coming from a dental technician, same way as Milos, integrating his workflows. That's helped me a lot on the sense of cost effective, being for you know all the reasons that don't having a license and fees, and being a portable scanner, a great scanner, accurate. So there's many features about the Medit I500, but yeah, through FMR Prosthetic Center, we can, you know, also help coaching different digital workflows that we implement, and through Chairside Lab Solutions who can help also on the process of setting an in-house digital lab if that's the case that someone needed. So, but yeah, and thank you for the opportunity and to be next to, you know, to big professionals as Milos, as Dr. Scherer, and
Yeah, no, it's
next time.
And
an
maybe
honor,
the most
pleasure.
important feature, of Medit, it's their team, their support. It's absolutely fantastic, out of this world. And the most important part is that we don't need support, because the scanner runs crazy alone. I mean, I never needed support, but there were a few people that needed actually, and they were replying like instantly. So that's absolutely fantastic.
No, that's key. That's key, especially because a lot of doctors do get stuck, you know, and then, you know, they need that assistance. So that's great. So thank you guys so much. You know, this was definitely an amazing small group of people here, and you know, we thank you guys for being part of this symposium. You know, we hope to have more intraoral symposiums, maybe with other systems, but Medit, we will continue to do a lot of them, you know, with him. And we want to thank all of our sponsors for, you know, helping make this happen, and you guys for you know, giving us your time and sharing your knowledge and all this information and your presentations. We really want to thank you. So, all right, everybody, thank you for watching. You know, thanks for being part of our community, and we'll see you soon. Take care.
Thank you. Bye bye, everyone.
Guys, bye bye, everyone.